Good Monday evening, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Talk Live here on the LTL Media channel. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. I did. I had a really great weekend, and I'm looking forward to starting this week off. It's funny, this show kind of came to me this morning. I was thinking about, what can we do? And I wanted to go back to a situation that happened to us on Friday out in front of the courthouse when standing out, supporting Karen Reed and waiting for her hearing to happen. So tonight we're going to get into talking about some of the alternate theories that have gone around about the Arca experts that gave testimony in the previous Karen Reed trial, as looks like we're going towards another one, which is ridiculous and just such a shame of our justice system to keep pushing this forward. But anyway, I thought about this stream and I said, let's talk about some alternate theories today, but I couldn't do this without a buddy of mine. And I want to bring him in here and start off this conversation and review what we're going to go through tonight. We're going to go through the Arca expert testimony and see if this alternate theory lines up. So let me bring him in. Mark from Mazza Media, welcome back in again. It's good to see you. How's your day going so far?
My day was very busy. This is about the 6th day in a row of consecutive shows for me. I did a 3-hour show yesterday, and I said, tonight, I think I'm just going to relax and take it easy. And then you messaged me and said, hey, do you want to come on the show? And I felt much like Jeremy Renner in The Town, where I was just like, when?
He said, my schedule's wide open when, and I was like, well, let's do one tonight. And I said, let's do, we'll start it. We'll start an early stream and get through this. We got a little bit of testimony to go through. Dr. Wolf, the women call them the crash daddies. Crash daddies. So we're gonna go through Dr. Wolf and what was it, Dr. Rentschler? I always get his last name incorrect.
Rentschler,
yeah. Yep. And we're gonna test this alternate theory. So if y'all don't know, we were out in front of the courthouse this past Friday, obviously supporting Karen Reed. And towards the end of the day, we had a discussion with one of the blue shirts, the Smurfs, the one that is on top, the one and only Plevin from Yellow Cottage Tales. And unfortunately, it got broken up by Mass State Police, which we were really having an open discourse. I mean, I don't think anybody was being rude. We weren't yelling and just trying to listen to each other's side. But the ARCA experts came up and their testimony and, Plevin's feelings on all of that. And I actually sent you some notes and I want to if you want to read them out, just read, what I wrote to you. And it kind of summarizes his point in the 4.5-minute video that I put up there.
Yeah, I'll read it out loud. You want me to go right ahead and do it? Sure. While addressing the Plevin Arca theory tonight, here's some notes about his theory.
Yeah.
He questioned, I don't know if I was supposed to read that part. End of conversation. I was kidding.
Yep.
End of script. Yeah. He questioned the credibility of Arca because he said they failed to obtain crucial vehicle data despite their expertise in tech stream data. He also argued that Arca's omission of vehicle data rendered their reconstruction unreliable, as determining the vehicle's speed without this data was impossible. Furthermore, he suggested that Arca's actions indicated they were serving as defense witnesses rather than impartial experts.
Right. So, Matt, what did you have to say to that when I sent you? Said, hey, great summary, great notes, but I want you to read some of your questions, which I thought were good, and they were good replies.
Sure. So really the last sentence stood out to me, which basically, just to reread that. Furthermore, he suggested that Arca's actions indicated they were serving as defense witnesses rather than impartial experts. Immediately, what I said back to you and that was that the final sentence was my big takeaway after speaking with him, because he dismisses them solely for being defense experts or experts on behalf of the defense. And I found that was kind of almost dismissive. That's kind of like, when you see politics out there and someone dismisses someone in the opposing party because they're representing that party and they cannot be perceived as unbiased. And I think that's absolutely false in this particular case, considering that the experts are Arca. representatives and are speaking only to what they can speak to. And I find it hard to believe these individuals would have gone up there and had anything to say, regardless of whatever they had determined. And I don't think they're going to start flipping and being partial to a defense attorneys and do that. And I think they probably would have refused to do that if they had been lobbied to or urged to by the defense.
Yeah, I mean, it would question integrity of their business. I mean, literally, the FBI gave them the case file and said, independently, what do you think about this? Is this theory correct? That's what their job was. It wasn't to look at the defense. It wasn't to pull to the defense. It wasn't to pull to the prosecution. It's to look at the information that's given to them in that file, recreate that that scene and recreate that scenario and say, is it plausible? It's called a scientific experiment. I mean, that's literally what they do. That's what their job is. Let me just pull up the ARCA website so you can all see this really quick. And this is what they do. This is their job. ARCA is a multidisciplinary engineering consulting firm for litigation, insurance, military, sports, and more. I mean, they've worked with the military. They've worked with the NHL to improve their boards and make it more, I guess,
probably durable.
Yeah, more durable, or more, maybe to reduce impact on the players.
Right.
And this is what they do. I mean, we're seeing examples of the experimentation and recreations that they do. Only my suggestion would have been this, and this is what I get excited about, and I talked about this last time when you were on the show. I think it would have been very cool if they had a video, to kind of recreate that and show the jury. It might have been a little bit easier for them to visualize, because let's face it, everybody, we're extremely visual creatures now. That's how how advertising works, and these algorithm works, and visual stimulation now. I mean, everything is trying to click you and grab you and pull you in. And I think in my opinion, it would have been really great to see some type of reconstruction video. What do you think about that, Maz?
I absolutely agree. I would have loved to have seen that. The only issue, I think, is that sometimes the judge and the Commonwealth would fight against that being admitted in court, which we saw happen a couple different times. But I think that would be pretty clear cut. You look at these videos here; they're extremely high quality. In fact, they're more high quality than that other guy that's on court TV a lot in his reconstruction videos. So I don't think he's really one to try to dismiss the quality of reconstruction videos such as this. As you can see on their website, they're using live dummies, just like the old crash dummy,
the crash test dummies.
Back in the day, back in the old days, 80s. This is very clear cut stuff. It's very scientific. They're using actual evidence here, and they can simulate to a relative degree a lot of particular things. You see the spine right there and how the body acts. So they can test out how the car reacts, how the body reacts, speed of the vehicle, point of motions that or angles that hit the body. And this is all high tech stuff. And furthermore, I just okay, you want to dismiss the experts for the defense because they're defense's experts. Well, I would question one thing: where are the experts that were brought in for the Commonwealth to come in here and bring this up and talk about this? And my guess is that they probably didn't have any true experts outside the state police, because
they did. They had Trooper Paul.
Yeah, they had Trooper Paul. Right. They didn't have any experts outside the state police. Yeah, because they nobody would come forward for them and say, hey, we're gonna give you what you want in terms of your narrative, and they weren't able to do that. So, like you just said, they went with Trooper Paul, who basically drew the short end of the stick and posed as an expert with his ninth degree, I guess, from associate's degree, whatever it was. So,
yeah, but he did a pirouette. Remember?
Yeah, he did a pirouette. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. So again, if anybody wants to check out the ARCA website, I'm going to drop that in the chat. Feel free to go over and check out their expertise. And we have we're going to hear from two very qualified technicians today that are involved in ARCA. So let me just pull this down. And, hey, listen, before we go further, let me just do a quick commercial break here. I want to just highlight a business on Etsy. I think I say that correctly. And it's Bulma hats. And everybody's hearing a lot about the Bulma hats lately. And we've noticed really the person that's really worn this out lately has been Kelly Reed, and garnered a lot of attention to this company. I actually purchased one, and they fit great. It's a great product. They're unfortunately right now out of stock. And I talked to Jennifer today, and she said she will be restocking soon. So what I'm going to do is I want everybody to, if you're interested, just keep an eye out for when they do. And I dropped the link there in the chat. And I want to just read this message from Jennifer, that is the company owner. She said, just to make sure and everybody understands. So Bulma actually stands for Boston, Mass for short, which is pretty cool. I wish I could think of stuff like that, but that's pretty cool. And you can find them on Facebook and the Instagram. And she said that at the end of the week, there'll be new inventory that's arriving. And then 10% of all of the sales of the free Karen Reed hats will be donated to Karen Reed's Defense Fund, which is freaking awesome. That's a company that I can get behind, I can support. And if you're interested, I'll pull up the web page here and just show everybody what it looks like, just so you know that it's authentic. This is the site that you're going to look for on Etsy, and it says Bulma hats. And just keep an eye out for when they go in stock. But what I want to do tonight is, like I said, I have an extra hat, and I want to give this one actually away tonight to promote the company. Brand new, still, I just got it out of the package. And I'm going to do this. If you want to participate in receiving this awesome free hat that can support Karen Reed, you can partake tonight. And what you need to do is in the chat, just type in hashtag FKR. Hashtag FKR will get you entered into the drawing. And then maybe towards the end of the show, we'll do the drawing. And what I just need anybody to do, for the winner to do, I want obviously them to be serious if you want this hat. The winner to do is that we'll have you reach out to me via email. I will vet you and then get this sent out to you. So hashtag FKR will get you involved in the free Karen Reed hat drawing from Bulma Hats. And that's cool. I want to give that back to a fan tonight. So let's do this. We will move on, and we will, let's see. Cool. All right, we'll move on. Let's get to some testimony. Right now, I got 35 entries in the drawing.
Nice.
Let's get to some testimony. I just to let everybody know, as tradition, when we do the Karen Reed streams, 25% of your donations tonight will get kicked back to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. And I would love to get to at least $50 for Karen tonight. All right, Maz, here we go. If you need to pause, just say pause. If you want to discuss anything, and we'll rip through this.
You got it.
Dr. Wolf, the Crash Daddies.
Crash Daddy himself.
Whenever
I think Ev's always going to get those looks in on him. She's like, I was checking this guy out. She's like, I'm not interested, lady.
Daniel Michael Wolf, last name spelled
the women are going to melt now.
W-O-L-F-E.
Dr. Wolf, what do you do for a living?
I am the director of accident reconstruction at a company known as ARCA.
Bam. Let's just start it there. I mean, come on.
ARCCA.
I'm an expert.
And what is ARCA exactly?
So ARCA is a forensic engineering consulting firm. We have a variety of disciplines that include human factors, biomechanics, crashworthiness, accident reconstruction, just to name a few.
Based on your title, it sounds like you're the director of the entire accident reconstruction format for ARCA, correct?
Bam. I don't know. That is the qualifications.
What sort of contracts does ARCA routinely engage in?
So we do a lot of work in civil litigation. So we work with insurance carriers, law firms, but we also consult with and do projects with the federal government, as well as the National Hockey League on player safety. So we're involved in a number of research projects as well.
Is there other clientele that seeks out ARCA for accident reconstruction or biomechanics or human factors issues?
In terms of beyond the parties that I just listed?
You mentioned the U.S. Department of Defense.
Yes, the military, yes, the Army.
Tell me a little bit about the work that you've done for the Department of Defense.
Well, that was before my time, but I'm aware.
Yeah, I would say this gentleman so far is pretty qualified. I mean, they work with the Department of Defense, and then I think that they mentioned the NHL and NHL as well in this too.
So. Projects that
I believe he was more qualified as soon as he said his name than Trooper Paul.
I don't think you'll be talking about pirouettes tonight.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Vehicles that were over in the Middle East, where they basically designed energy absorbing seats because there was injuries when the vehicles were going over IEDs.
Is ARCA known both nationally and internationally? Is it recognized as a leader in accident reconstruction issues?
Yes.
As the director of accident reconstruction at ARCA, do you specialize in both accident reconstruction and the human factors that are associated with such reconstruction where necessary?
Yes.
Can you give me a synopsis of the professional discipline of what is accident reconstruction?
I think a simple definition in my mind would be the application of physics, engineering, science, and mathematics to collision events. I always like to think of it
as is it this expert? I think it's these two experts that literally Alan Jackson said, we didn't even really have time to conversate about this. I think they say
that's accurate. I believe that's accurate. I believe they had almost no time or limited time or something like that with these guys.
So
yeah.
If I'm going to say the other side, the blue shirts, think that this was like all set up to tailor to the defense, you're wrong, because one, I think I may be wrong in this, but I have to say that they barely had time. And I think Alan Jackson makes that point in this testimony, that they barely had time to speak about this. And two, keep this in mind, they're under oath. They cannot lie.
That's right.
They cannot lie.
That's right. So, and given the fact that they're experts and, they are familiar with the case to whatever degree they were, simply asking questions and getting answers is going to be about as organic as you can possibly hope for here.
Yeah. And Joe's helping us out and confirming it. Said they were not allowed to meet with them prior to testimony, which is great because you know why? It keeps the testimony pure. It keeps it pure and honest. So I love it. I love it. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for reiterating that. I thought it was.
Is if you open up the puzzle box and you dump the pieces out and you've got a bunch of pieces and you're trying to piece together the evidence to see how everything fits to get a clear picture.
And what is the application of human factors to that process?
So to give you an example of human factors in the field of accident reconstruction, so I do a lot of nighttime visibility and conspicuity work. So to give you an example of that, let's say a driver is driving down the road at night. There's a pedestrian that's crossing the road. So we want to have an understanding based upon that pedestrian's clothing, the headlights of the vehicle, any potential artificial lighting in the area. When does a driver recognize that individual on the roadway? And then we can also look at literature to have an understanding of how do drivers respond based upon the hazard they're presented with. So there's different response times depending on the hazard. So it's going to be different for a pedestrian crossing the roadway or a driver responding to a vehicle suddenly stopping in front of them.
Dr. Wolf, as an accident reconstructionist, do you investigate and reconstruct both passenger vehicle issues, commercial vehicle issues, motor vehicle, pedestrian issues, all of the above?
Yes, I see all types of accidents.
And how?
Get to this really quick. Starting off, Boston Sarah, thank you so much. $5. We're going to add that up. One of my, if one of my moderators can keep track. So we have $5 tonight. Love and appreciate you both. You all do to support Karen. Thank you. And hashtag free Karen Reed. Yeah, don't forget, get involved. Hashtag free Karen Reed. We're going to give away a free Karen Reed hat tonight, courtesy of Bulma hats to support their company. And 10% of all the Bulma hat sales from the free Karen Reed hats will get donated back to Karen Reed's defense fund. This is just so cool. All right, here we go.
How long have you been doing this work with ARCA?
A little over 7 years now.
What education, training, and background qualifies you to
here
perform
comes the
qualifications
qualifications, Mazza.
described for the jury?
Back in 2012, I received a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from James Madison University, along with a minor in mathematics. Some of my courses while at JMU included courses in physics, statics, dynamics, kinematics, material science, along with your other engineering sciences. Subsequent to my undergraduate degree, I then went on to the University of Delaware to pursue my PhD in electrical and computer engineering with a concentration in electromagnetics and photonics.
Very good qualifications there.
Yeah, I'd say. I'd say.
So he didn't go to night school at Roy Rogers in Connecticut.
Yeah, I didn't take a class.
The restaurant joke.
Yes, I know.
What additional training or experience do you have as it relates to accident reconstruction in addition to the formal education and the PhD?
Certainly. So in addition to my undergraduate degree and my PhD, I've continued to take courses through Northwestern University in crash reconstruction. Some of those courses have included human factors, lighting. I've taken courses on electronic vehicle data, photogrammetry, three-dimensional laser scanning. So I've continued to take courses subsequent to graduating.
Dana, thank you so much. $20 says thank you both. Brian and Mazza for keeping the Free Karen Read movement going. Thanks for bringing back the footage of the Crash Daddies. I knew this would be a hit tonight for the ladies. I knew this would be a hit. And, you know, listen, you know, while Mr. Wolf is a very handsome man, I have to say that the two most handsome guys on the panel tonight are me and Mazza. So I'm just kidding. But, she says, hi, Mod and Chats. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And I don't know, Maz. I think Wolf's going to outshine us here tonight.
I think so. Hey, well, yeah, maybe you.
Also holding the accreditations in terms of accident reconstruction.
Yes,
I had a joke with you there, brother.
Known as ACTAR,
All good.
which is the Accreditation Commission for Traffic Accident Reconstruction.
Are you trained in photogrammetry?
Yes, sir.
Is that to determine vehicle crash incidents or the circumstances surrounding them based on map scenes,
Oh, wow,
evidence,
look at this,
photographs, things?
That's funny. Greg Hill actually, I think, was talking about Karen Read this morning on his show, and because they actually saw Karen Read out over this weekend, and I think she was down in the Cove and Fall River, spending some time down there. And Renee saying that I heard the FBI spent $500,000 to have the Crash Daddies do a study in time for the trial, and that was via the Greg Hill show. Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. That's really cool. Woody, wow, $50 says Free Karen Read from Cincinnati. We love all of our national audience that comes in and watches our channels, because that helps us spread the Free Karen Read movement outside of Massachusetts. And as you know, it's worldwide now. I mean, we have people from all over the world, the Aussies, Scotland, England, they're all involved. So really cool stuff. So thank you so much for doing that. And then Shelby, using your 5-month membership, says, auction you guys off for a good cause. All us thirsty ladies think it's a smart idea. Not a bad idea.
If we auctioned off Plevin, it would be like Chris Elliott in Groundhog Day, or the elderly woman, I bid 2 bits. I got them.
It's a good movie. I really like that.
Oh,
I'd seen it in a long time. It's great. Bill Murray, you can't beat him. I also like What About Bob is so good too. That's a really good one.
Bill Murray is one of my favorite actors of all time. I'm not even kidding. Ghostbusters and all that. Yeah, I'm huge. Stripes.
Stripes is great too. Ghostbusters. What does he say? Oh shit! I've always wanted to do this. I always want to do that. And the flowers are still standing.
Well, I was going to actually try to paste my face and your face onto Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd from the mayor's office.
Oh, that would have been good.
Kevin's face on the face of Walter Peck. These men are consummate snowball artists. People think that they're thinking Karen Read is innocent.
It is true. This man has no tick.
Yeah, these men are consummate snowball grifters.
Oh, it's so good. Deanna, thank you so much. 4-month member. Thank you for the support. Just agree with Shelby. You're all of you are handsome. Too close to call. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Very kind. Very, very kind. But all right. Let's God, Bill Murray. So real quick before we go back. I'm not kidding you. About 15 years ago, a place that I used to work at, I'm in there, and this guy comes running in, and he goes, hey, you're not going to believe it. I said, what? He goes, Bill Murray is literally walking in this direction, getting ready to go into one of the stores down here. I said, get out of town. No, look, there he is right there. And here is Bill Murray in like Hawaiian shorts, plain white tee, visor, hair all sticking out. He's got 3 young boys with him. And he goes into a store called Hickey Freeman. It's a very upscale golf company, clothing. Like their sweaters are like $400 or $500. He goes in, and I'm like, oh my God, that's Bill fucking Murray, you know, like so cool.
It's like Woody Harrelson in Zombieland, but Bill freaking Murray.
Yeah. So we're watching him, and about maybe 10 minutes into being in the store, he comes out. There's a bench. He takes the 3 boys, and they're probably not quite teenagers, just, you know, brings them out on the bench, makes them sit down, and does one of these to them, walks back in the store, does a little shopping, comes out with like 4 or 5 bags, and walks out. I can tell you this, Mazza, Bill Murray blended in so well that no one even freaking knew who he was.
I believe it.
And it's the coolest thing. And I've heard things where he's like randomly showing up at people's like weddings and bars and just drink. It's the coolest thing. But that was really great. Yeah, and he is in Mass a lot. I think he has a place down the Cape. So I know he's there. Mary Ellen K, thank you, says the defense was not allowed to discuss testimony with them. You are right. You are right. Okay, let's get to testimony. Thank you for that little break.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
Absolutely. So photogrammetry is the science of extracting information, if you will, out of photographs. So things dimensionally about an object, spatially, without ever actually physically seeing the object or inspecting it.
So you don't have to be at the scene to effectively and scientifically reconstruct it to your satisfaction.
you're right about that, Mary.
No,
Flynn.
not at all. And
Not that I was ever a fan of the song to begin with, but if I had been, I would have been ruined for me.
frankly, to be honest with you, in my world in civil litigation, oftentimes by the time a case comes across my desk, it's, the accident happened 5 years ago. Some I've even had 10 or 15 years ago. So getting access to the vehicle at that point, it's going to be a long shot.
Doctor, are you a member of any professional societies?
Yes.
Describe those, please.
So I'm a member of the Society of Automotive Engineers, SAE. I'm also a member of the National Association for Professional Accident Reconstructionists, the Optical Society of America, and also the Illuminating Engineering Society.
Bonus points
How
if
many
you're part of the
cases,
Midnight
would
Society.
you say in your experience in your career have you reconstructed or attempted to reconstruct, you or your team members?
I don't actively track that. If I had to estimate at this point in my career, it'd probably be well over 1,000.
And how many of those 1,000, I know you'd have a number specific, but how many of those 1,000 would you say involved pedestrians as well?
But several hundred. As I mentioned earlier, a great, excuse me, a great deal of my work is in the field of lighting and visibility. So there's a direct correlation between time of day and pedestrian incidents. We see a rise in the evening and night hours just due to drivers having difficult ability to try to perceive and recognize individuals. So I
real quick, I just want to get this. I'm trying to process why anybody would question the science involved in the physics and especially the heavy resumes that these two gentlemen can provide. That is the point why Mazza and I are doing this today. This is it right here. This is
Yep.
I mean,
That's right.
Social's got it right. This is why we wanted to go over and review this and just show, the other side. I don't know why you can just keep saying that this is not valid, that this is all set up by the defense. I mean, you're going to hear it in testimony and you're going to hear it on the record from Alan Jackson. And we even heard it in pretrial hearings that I think probably the second to last, or maybe even the last one that he talked about. And I remember that he kind of, a little sarcasm in there. He says, in the federal information comes out, we get the file. It says that, the feds hired this independent. He goes, I didn't hire them. Mr. Lally didn't hire them. It's independent. It's independent of this. The FBI did it.
Yeah.
So to keep denying that and that saying that the defense set this up, I think you're on a huge stretch.
Yeah.
Huge stretch.
100%. I have a question of whether or not you thought the Earth was round.
Listen, it was a serious question.
It was, yeah.
Maybe a little sarcasm in there, but it definitely was a serious question because I was getting to the bigger point. If you're denying that the Earth is round or spherical, you're denying science. You're denying ARCA. And I asked him, "You're denying ARCA," and he goes, "Well, you're not a physics expert." And I went, "Well, you're not one either."
I like that comeback.
But these guys,
I commented on that last night on my show. I was like, I like the way you had that quick-witted comeback. I'm like, oh, that was a great comeback.
But these
like,
guys are, and that's my bigger point.
And neither are you. Loved it.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. They are.
Right. Exactly.
I certainly see a lot of pedestrian collisions in my casework.
You've done testing or research as it relates to the kinematics and the interaction between pedestrians and vehicles.
Absolutely. So we do a number of tests at ARCA to look at the interaction between pedestrians and vehicles. One of the ones I know I did most recently where we were evaluating a vehicle essentially rolling over a pedestrian. So we wanted to understand the vehicle dynamics as well as the interaction between the pedestrian and the road surface. So we conducted testing at ARCA to evaluate that.
Does ARCA have any other disciplines other than just accident reconstruction?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, we have crash worthiness. So again, that's where you're going to be looking at the safety of a vehicle. How does it perform in a crash? We have human factors, failure analysis, premise liability and biomechanics.
Real quick, just gonna do this. Christina, thank you so much. $20 says free Karen Reed. Really appreciate you guys keeping up this case out there in the spotlight. Thank you. Thank you very much. We try to work hard. We don't want to, I'll speak for myself. I don't want to overpower too much on the channel because there's other things that I have lined up and I want to keep doing here and expanding my base. But I've made the promise to the Reed family and Karen and all of the supporters out there. I will continue talking about this case until Karen Reed walks out of that courtroom a free and clear woman and can just start to go on with her life. So there'll be other things here on this platform that we'll be doing. I'm partnering up with some really great people in the area. I have some amazing guests come in. For instance, on Friday, just to let everybody know, I will have retired Mass State Police Trooper Todd McGee live in studio, and I started conversations with him actually probably close to almost 2 weeks ago now, and just our schedules haven't lined up, but it will line up on Friday, and we're really looking forward to doing that show. And then I have a really big guest coming in September, a little later in September, but you'll hear more about that as we kind of finalize all the details. So awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Brian. Yeah. And don't forget Maz. Maz has done a lot of work in this. If you're not subscribed over to his channel, you got to go over to Mazza Media on YouTube. I'll drop the link there.
Thank you so much.
Oh, of course. And I'll drop the link there in the chat. That's his channel on YouTube. And he's very, very active on X or Twitter, however you prefer you want to call it. And I've dropped the link to that. So please get over and subscribe to these platforms. A lot of people say, I'm going on a little diatribe here, but a lot of people say that they don't get our notifications. They don't know when we go live. If you subscribe to, if you have X, get on X, subscribe. I have a Facebook account. Every time I go live, LTL Media, you can check me out. I post, and if in YouTube is pretty bad about notifications, but check us out on all those other social platforms, and you'll know when we collaborate and go live. So.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Thank
you of course, man. I value you. I've said that all along. I think you're a man of integrity. I like what you have to say. I like your opinion. And that's why I asked you to come on and hang out and do these shows. So
thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. All right.
As a reconstructionist, doctor, do you or have you studied?
Appreciate you. Yes, Paul. He is the man.
Tested the forces that are at play between objects interacting, a human being interacting with a vehicle, for instance.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
part of what you do.
Yes, sir.
Describe that.
So we use hybrid instrumented dummies at ARCA for our testing. So if we want to have an understanding that an occupant in a vehicle, the forces that they might experience, or for any matter, again, if it's an instance where you have something that ends up falling on someone's head and you want to have an understanding of the forces involved in that, we perform testing with hybrid dummies.
Have you ever authored any peer-reviewed papers in the field of physics?
Yes, sir.
Describe those for me.
So I have a number of papers in the field of lighting and optics. I have a recent publication that deals with Toyota and Lexus vehicle control history records as well.
Oh, boy.
Is that called Toyota Vehicle Control History?
Oh, boy.
Sudden braking history recording characteristics?
Yes, sir.
All right. Was that specific to dealing with vehicles and their interaction with other vehicles and or pedestrians?
It involved looking at the various triggers that system is capable of recording. And specifically, it was looking at what triggers a sudden braking event. So we were able to determine that those triggers, the sudden braking event is triggered when a driver, or I should say the vehicle,
Thank you, Mary, for the super sticker, $5.
Sure.
Okay,
I mean, he establishes his qualifications there. He's familiar with Lexus. They actually had used a crash dummy there. These are big things. I mean, did the Massachusetts State Police do anything like that when Trooper Paul was cross-examined by Alan Jackson? He didn't really know his left shoe from his right shoe, quite honestly.
I just want to do this. I know the Twitter peeps are in here. Unfortunately, you'll have to be in the YouTube chat to enter your hashtag to get entered. And then what I'll do is towards the end of the show, we'll do the drawing for the hat. I'll have you reach out to me via email. We'll vet you, and then I'll get the hat sent out free of charge so you can start wearing this. I mean, the hats are great. I mean, I'm a trucker hat guy. This thing is perfect. The fit is great. The look is great. And the message behind it is the most important thing. So really good stuff. Oh, Michelle, thank you. I appreciate that. So you can listen to you guys talk all day.
Now you're.
Yes, you
Thank
can
you.
move on.
You've
Let's
been
move on.
qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You were not hired by the defense in this case, correct?
That is
Here we
correct.
go.
At the time you did your expert review, Dr. Wolf, and your consultation, you and I had never met.
That's correct.
You did not know who I was.
I did not.
You'd never met Ms. Little.
No.
Mr. Unetti.
No,
Matter of fact, you'd never heard of this case.
that's correct.
You were hired by another agency not connected in any way to the defense. Is that right?
Correct.
And not connected in any way to the Commonwealth. Is that right?
Correct.
So your
you
analysis,
say that
and your
louder?
conclusions, and your opinions are
Oh, look, go ahead. What did we just hear?
Yeah, exactly. No connections whatsoever. No connections here. No connections there. Totally impartial. Totally unbiased.
And on the record, I keep saying this, under oath. You are
Yeah.
under oath. So if you lie, you are going to get caught, and you're gonna
Yeah.
face consequences. This is on the record, under oath.
Right.
So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Let's see. Kelly, thank you so much. Says Todd needs to put in a bid to audit Canton PD audit. Love you. Love watching you both. I have health issues right now, and I'm watching your lives, and it helps. Thank you, Kelly. I wish you well, in good health, and I hope you recover soon. And we really appreciate you watching the live shows here. So thank you so much.
Get better, Kelly.
Yeah, get better, please. Okay, here we go.
completely independent
Slam dunk
of the
blue shirt.
defense
Here you go,
and the
Jeffrey.
Commonwealth in this case. Is that right?
Objection.
Sustained, Mr. Jackson, you can ask.
And Lally didn't like it. Lally
No.
didn't like it. Objection. Objection. Objection.
Objection.
Objection.
Objection. I had to watch the video of us booing him when he walked this way in
Oh,
court on Friday
yeah.
about 60 times. I was just laughing. I was having too much fun yesterday with that video.
I remember there was one when Tom and I, Tom CPU, we were outside the courthouse and we were walking. It was a day, I think he took me around the tour of Dedham. We saw the historical
Yeah.
houses there. We're walking by the steps and Lally walks right by us and goes in and we're like, oh my God, that's Lally right there. Look, Lally. And everybody in the chat is like, boo.
That's funny.
That's really good.
Lunchbox. Yeah.
Lunchbox. Yeah.
That guy.
Differently.
I once interviewed him.
When you did your analysis and conclusions, well, let me ask it this way. You finalized your report, you and your team, correct?
Correct.
That report is contained. That report is
Thank
contained.
you, Amy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for
multi-page
advertising.
document that was submitted following your analysis.
I'm gonna try to, and I'm gonna work with Paul on this, and I'm gonna say this because I know Paul's in the chat. I'm gonna work with Paul to try to, and I've been talking to him to coordinate something in my city, yeah, because where I live is a city, and coordinate something possibly for next weekend. So, because I have some time off coming up in the next week, so if I can get out on a Saturday or Sunday from 10 to 12 and have some people join me and spread the message of Free Karen Reed, I'd really
That's awesome.
would appreciate that. So, okay, let's keep going here.
September-
September 8th is a Sunday.
Right?
What's that?
September 8th is a Sunday. I was just
Yes.
wondering. Looked it up. Yeah.
Yes.
Correct.
Oh, no
We
problem,
didn't-
Paul. I
the
think
defense
everybody
didn't have anything
now
to do
knows
with
where I
that,
live.
correct?
Correct.
You had never met us.
They
just
will.
dox,
Who we
just
were
dox the
when you
guy,
did this.
Paul.
They
Correct.
will
You
anyway
never
if
met
I do
Mr.
the
Lally,
stand out.
didn't know who
So
he
not a
was when you
problem.
did this.
Correct.
So your analysis,
really care.
opinions, testing, and conclusions were requested by a completely separate agency.
That is correct.
Goes without saying, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. You haven't been paid by the defense,
You have not paid
Oh,
us
I love
anything,
this.
no.
and you don't work for us.
That's correct.
As a matter of fact, I've never asked you specific questions about your testing before today.
That is correct.
I need that. Oh,
Your work
that
product,
meaning.
the report that you provided was provided both to the defense as well as the Commonwealth. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
And you were equally available to both sides.
I love
In
it.
terms of them reaching out,
Correct.
yes.
Oh,
And I
that's very
called you
interesting to
ultimately
know.
after-
Well, that's good to know. That's very interesting to know in retrospect, given Friday's
Yeah,
conversation
reaching
with
out.
Mr. Freeze.
Equally reaching out.
Receiving your report, asked if you join us and testify, correct?
That is correct.
Oh, I
Were
thought
you and your
Paul.
team asked to undertake a review for purposes of accident reconstruction of the case that's now pending before the court?
Yes, sir.
Was your team asked to do this by the agency that ultimately retained you, not us?
That's correct.
Real quick, just want to get to this. Laura, thank you so much for the $20 on PayPal. It says, love your channel and all that you are doing to shine some light. I think it said on corruption and this case. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Valerie with $5 said, have you seen The Truth Revealed? This points out all the lies Jen McCabe, Chris Albert, and Brian Albert from the trial. It's crazy. I have seen that. I actually invited Sergio on the channel to do a live, but I know that he just had some other things that came up, and I would encourage everybody to go over and see how he kind of breaks down all the body language and speech patterns of this, and comes up with his theories on how these all these people involved are lying. It's a pretty good channel, but maybe we come back around at some point. I have him on the channel, but he did give me a shout out, which was great, and I appreciate that. And Sergio, if you're watching, if you want to come back on LTL and hang out and just go through some of this with us, we would love that. But anyway, let's keep playing on. Thank you so much for the 5.
Who at ARCA was assigned to the team who would ultimately undertake this job of accident reconstruction?
It was myself, Dr. Andrew Rentschler, and Scott Klein.
Rentschler, there you go,
Rentschler's
Brian.
role in this case,
yeah.
as it's distinguished from your role in the case?
Certainly. So Dr. Rentschler is a biomechanical engineer, and ultimately he assessed whether or not there was a mechanism for the injuries of Mr. John O'Keefe.
And what was your focus? If he's talking about the injuries
Coffee
to
nut.
Mr. O'Keefe, what was your focus?
Yeah,
in your
I would say
reconstruction
so.
and your analysis?
I would simply say it was looking more at the damage to the vehicle.
I'm going to tell you, I'm probably going to get one of his long emails again. Hey, anytime you want to come on my platform, anytime. No. No.
I won't be coming on your show, and you won't be coming on mine.
No, yeah, I don't care enough. We had our opportunity. If you want to talk to me in public, in front of everybody, I'm glad to do that and just have it on the record. And he's like, oh, listen, dude.
I can't wait for him to review this episode. And he's like, you see these guys here, they don't use truth, logic, and evidence. I'm smarter than they are. These guys, who are these guys? Who is these LTL media and Mazza media guys? Bunch of grifters. First time he ever ran into me online, he wrote, I don't know who this Mazza media is, but I guarantee he's a grifter. That's pretty much what he said.
Let's just set this straight with everybody with the whole grifting thing. Is I always hear about that and I laugh about it all the time. So because what we do here on YouTube, we gather information, we report, and we come to our interpretation and conclusions, right? We give that to an audience. What do you think Fox News and CNN does every single night? It's the same thing. They get leads, they go and seek out physical stories, they gather that information, they interpret it, and they give it back to the audience. I'm going to tell you, CNN and Fox News and all them are making a ton more money than me and Mazza probably ever could make in our lifetime. Their hosts and their experts and all that, they're all getting paid. Whatever dribble revenue that comes into our channels, we make a little bit of money. I don't understand why wouldn't you say the mainstream media is grifting as well too? I mean, they're getting paid, right? I mean,
yeah, they got advertisers, they got sponsors.
I don't have advertisers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I get bored of hearing that. I think it's just a funny thing. And I've said this before. Yes, I make money. Yes, I get paid. Yes, this is my part-time passion and what I want to, well, part-time, more full-time now. My full-time passion. I also work a full-time job. So I do double duty and I want to make this my life. I love doing it. I love talking and conversating with people. And I like talking about the truth and getting it out there. So I don't know. That's me.
The first time they said that to me, like, Mazza Media is a grifter. I'm like a drifter? Like I'm a drifter? Like what the heck is a grifter? And I had to go on like Google and Urban Dictionary, and every couple of weeks I'd forget what it means, and they'd call me again. I'm like, what the heck is a grifter?
Yeah.
And I think they've been misusing the word for months. I don't think that's even what it means. It's like someone just said it's a swindler or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, a grifter?
Right.
Like what?
But the funny thing is, when I mean, probably 90%, maybe 95% of the Karen Reed streams I've done, I've literally donated money back to her defense
Oh
fund.
yeah, right.
So how
exactly.
am I'm giving money back.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
I'm giving back a significant amount of money. It doesn't matter. I just want to do this to make sure that Karen Reed has money to fund. Oh, my voice cracked. To fund her defense team to get her out of this like ridiculous situation.
Yeah,
she's involved in.
You've been working very hard. So if anybody tells you you're a grifter, they're wrong. You know,
we all have.
Thank you.
So anyway, Audrey, thank you so much. $10 super sticker. I appreciate it. All right, we have a lot of testimony to get through. Let's pick it up with what the women call the crash daddies.
Okay, so in terms of your team and the
like a grifter, I was
responsibilities
to walk
of
alone.
the team members, you were more focused on the damage to the SUV.
I love it.
But I
Dr. Rentschler was more focused on the injuries suffered by Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
I think that's a fair characterization, although with the caveat that we worked together as a team. So we weren't isolated kind of in those areas, not speaking to each other. We certainly worked together on the analysis.
Understood. Were you provided or did you review certain materials in furtherance of your consultation?
Yes. We were provided photographs of the incident location. We were provided photographs of the Lexus.
Yeah, that's good.
There were a couple of incident reports that we received.
Yeah.
I could look at my report for the full list, but those were the ones.
You can go ahead and do that, Doctor.
Do you have the report with you?
Yes, sir.
I have a copy of it. Is this faster?
Sure.
May I?
And again, I just want to make sure that some people on repeat, because this does, the video goes out to much more viewers. If you want to watch this without our commentary, it is easily found, and I'll do this too. I'll drop it in the chat, and you can just click on this link after the replay and watch it without us. I just want to do this. Laura, thank you so much. $50 on Cash App says thank you for Sergio. Thank you for Sergio D to decipher on the truth revealed today. Yes, he does a great job over there, and thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate that, and we'll add that to the total, and then 25% will get donated tonight to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. All right, here we go. Oh, maybe we need to speed up a little bit here.
So typically, when I go out and do an inspection, especially of a fresh incident, let's say I've got a debris field or I've got tire marks, what I like to do is kind of step into the scene, if you will, where you take global perspective shots and then you step into a specific piece of evidence so that you can, at a later point in time, identify where that evidence is. I noted that in a lot of these photographs, I didn't see a whole lot of that stepping in. It was essentially just zoomed right into where that evidence is, but not really having a great understanding of where was it relative to all of the other evidence.
Or when it got there.
Correct.
Shit.
Based
I think we missed the beginning of that.
Did we? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because he hands him the report.
Were you provided or did you review certain materials today?
That is correct.
Were you provided?
Your work product, the report that you provided, was provided both to the defense as well as the Commonwealth. Is that right?
That's my understanding, yes.
And you were equally available to both sides?
In terms of them reaching out?
Correct.
Yeah, I went back a little far. Sorry.
And I called you ultimately after receiving your report, asked if you join us and testify, correct?
That is correct.
Sorry,
was your team asked to undertake a review for purposes of accident reconstruction of the case that's now pending before the court?
Yes, sir.
Was your team asked to do this by the agency that ultimately retained you, not us?
That's correct.
Who at ARCA was assigned to the team who would ultimately undertake this job of accident reconstruction?
It was myself, Dr. Andrew Rentschler, and Scott Klein.
What was Dr. Rentschler's role in this case, as it's distinguished from your role in the case?
Certainly. So Dr. Rentschler is a biomechanical engineer, and ultimately he assessed whether or not there was a mechanism for the injuries of Mr. John O'Keefe.
And what was your focus? If he's talking about the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, what was your focus in your reconstruction and your analysis?
I would simply say it was looking more at the damage to the vehicle.
Okay, so in terms of your team, and
I went way too far back. Sorry, everybody.
Of each of the team members, you were more focused on the damage to the SUV. Dr. Rentschler was more focused on the injuries suffered by Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
I think that's a fair characterization, although with the caveat that we worked together as a team, so we weren't isolated kind of in those areas, not speaking to each other. We certainly worked together on the analysis.
Understood. Were you provided or did you review certain materials in front of your consultation in this matter?
Yes.
What were you provided?
We were provided photographs of the incident location. We were provided photographs of the Lexus. There were a couple of incident reports that we received. I could look at my report for the full list, but those were the ones.
You can go ahead and do that, Doctor.
Do you have a report with you? Yes, I have a copy of it. Is this faster?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. I went a little too far back. Here we go. I want to hear what they talk about here, which is important.
How many categories of materials were you provided?
Provided it would be approximately 10.
Could you list those off for the jurors, please?
Here we go.
It would be the Norfolk SPDU homicide death report,
Okay.
the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of State Police crime scene report,
Okay.
OCME dispatch removal report, photographs of the incident location, videos of the incident location, photographs of the 2021 Lexus LX 570, photographs of recovered evidence, crash data retrieval report from the 2021 Lexus 570.
That's one of the points I think that Plevin makes, that they didn't have the data. They did.
They
It's-
did.
They
Read
did. He had the data from that. I don't know what it is. The black box or entity. I don't know whatever records that data.
I think it was the black box. Yeah.
Black
Usually,
box, essentially like
We'll
what's
call it,
inside
yeah.
an airplane.
Right.
When an airplane. No.
Yes.
He did, and I think he said that to us outside. Like, how could they guesstimate? How could they estimate vehicle speed if they didn't have the data straight from the Lexus itself? Well, they did. He's reading it. They had the crash report based off that computer. Let me just go back a little bit here. All right, here we go. Let's read this again. I want to hear this.
Thank you.
How many categories of materials were you provided?
Oh, Mark Betterow. Look at this.
Provided it would be approximately 10.
Mark.
Could
The
you
man.
list those off for the jurors?
I'll do this if Mark wants to jump
It
up.
would be the Norfolk SPDU homicide death report.
Real quick, Mark, I dropped the link. If you want to jump up with us, you're welcome. And if you want to, hang out a little bit, we'd love you to jump up. If not, no problem. We'll have you back at another time. But the link is open. I love this. He said, just showing to support my local grifters. I love it.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of
Hey,
State
Jody, how are
Police
you?
crime scene report, OCME dispatch removal report,
Freddie.
photographs of the incident.
Yeah.
Weapons lies. It's done. He's definitely watching this, and he's probably going, I can't wait to review this. And prove them wrong.
Location, videos.
I don't know
of
what you're
the
talking
incident
about. This
location,
expert doesn't know what he's talking about.
photographs of the 2021 Lexus LX 570, photographs of recovered evidence, crash data retrieval report from the 2021
right there.
Lexus 570, report of autopsy and autopsy photographs.
They had the data, Mazza. They had
Based
the data.
on these data that you were provided, were you able to to your mind, satisfactorily engage in the consultation that you were hired to do
Yes.
and come up with some opinions and conclusions based on scientific certainty?
Yes.
Mom's meatloaf. We want it now, Michelle. Mom, the meatloaf. We want it now.
What is she doing back there? I never know what she's doing.
Yeah. Amazing. I must have watched it more like 60 times when it was brand new.
That's so good. Diana G, thank you so much for the $5 gift or memberships. We'll make that a 25 spot for the kickback to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. So if you want to add $25 and welcome new members, and you get to go to my homepage on YouTube, scroll all the way to the bottom, you get all the members only content there. So awesome. Thank you. All right, let's keep playing.
Did you review scene photographs of the alleged incident?
Yes, sir.
What information were you able to glean or gather from your review of the photographs, from the scene specifically?
So from those photographs, I was able to identify there was fragments of transparent red, clear plastic. There also appeared to be pieces of chrome and black plastic. I also observed what appeared to be glass fragments along with a black drinking straw.
Did you also review some videos?
Yes.
That was out at the scene, maybe a leaf blower?
Correct. It appeared to be daytime. Yes.
Okay. What did you note about the photography at the scene of the items that were being photographed?
Well, I think one thing that comes to mind is it was a little bit difficult to follow the evidence, so to speak. So typically, when I go out and do an inspection, especially of a fresh incident, let's say I've got a debris field or I've got tire marks, what I like to do is kind of step into the scene, if you will, where you take global perspective shots, and then you step into a specific piece of evidence so that you can, at a later point in time, identify where that evidence is. I noted that in a lot of these photographs, I didn't see a whole lot of that stepping in. It was essentially just zoomed right into where that evidence is, but not really having a great understanding of where was it relative to all of the other evidence.
Or when it got there.
Correct.
Based on your review of all the materials that you described for the court, did you get an understanding of what the Commonwealth's theory of the case is specifically?
What do you think about this? Teacup cranking. Could Jackson have asked Dr. Wolf to read the crash data report? What do you think, Maz?
Yeah, he could have. He could have. I mean, he could have definitely had him read that, say, what's a summary of what you got there, and read it out and see if that provided anything. But I don't know if
Bev would allow it.
I think I'm not sure if it would have been allowed or not, but I think Alan Jackson had a particular plan in mind for his approach. But it wouldn't have been a bad thing. But you never know if Auntie Bev or Lolly's going to objection.
Yeah, and I still think that, in my opinion, and look, you don't have to agree or you can disagree. I still think a video reconstruction would have probably helped as well. And maybe the second time around, if we're friggin' here again in January, that's something with what the defense can lead with. I would just lead with ARCA right away. Just come out, have them do a reconstruction video and say here. And even if they didn't, still lead with what they had, their testimony. I mean, it's on the record, it's under oath, completely independent. They've clearly established that already, that it's not for the defense or the Commonwealth. They're just doing their job. They're just look at facts, sort through it, and come to determination using their expertise. So, Sarah, thank you so much. Go ahead, Baz. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, it's okay. I heard that there was some video reconstruct, almost like video they used to reconstruct it that they were actually the defense was going to use, and I guess they got shot down when they were trying to do that. So I had some insider information.
Really?
On that? Yes, I did. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that videos that they had prepared, ready to go, and they weren't allowed to use those. So I can't cite my source on that, but I was told that by an extremely reliable source.
Interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
That's why I think that if they had prepared this, I would be very on the edge of my seat to see if Auntie Bev or the Commonwealth wouldn't object to it. Auntie Bev would allow it, the Commonwealth wouldn't object to it. So that's just stuff that I wonder. But I'm like you. I'd rather just see the visual stuff 100% of the time. Play the videos back, all that stuff, and that would be pretty awesome. So
yeah. Let's see, Sarah, thank you so much. 5 gifted memberships. That was very sweet of you. We have 5 new members. We'll add $25 towards the kickback to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. And I just want to look at this as well. I think I had another Cash App come through. Let's add $25. Another Cash App. So we'll add $25. I appreciate that. And let's keep going forward here. Really good stuff. Great conversations. Really great conversations.
Objection.
Sustained.
Pouring here right now.
Did you come to understand that the allegations before the court were that Mr. O'Keefe was struck by the vehicle?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
Objection. Oh, no kidding, Lally. No kidding.
Specifically focused on determining whether or not damage to the Lexus was consistent with hitting Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes, I think that's a fair characterization.
And reversing that, was your accident reconstruction also focused on whether or not the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe would result of being hit?
Just for one moment, I had this thought the other day. It's something I never thought of before, but I said it on the show. Let's just say, for example, let's just go with the Commonwealth's theory, for example. She backs up, she hits some, taillight shatters into 5,000 pieces. Well, you're still going to have within the frame of that taillight, shattered taillight that's going to spread. It's like in the fall when you have, or in the winter when you have leaves in the fall or snow in the winter on your car, and you brush some off, or maybe when you first start driving, some falls, whatever, right? Well, as soon as you start to drive, occasionally some snow or leaves kind of fall off as you're driving away, right? Well, it's the same thing with the taillight. If there's still taillight within the cylinder of the frame of where that taillight was, and it had shattered out, then they probably would have found a few pieces going up the street, at least for a house or two. Yet none of that's ever reported. It's just simply on the grass. It's more stuff that just kind of refutes the ridiculousness of the Commonwealth's theory.
Yeah, and it's interesting how like almost all of the pieces were just in one central location, not very far from each other. And that doesn't even make sense to me, because you know, the I wouldn't say hundreds of accidents that I've driven by, but probably, yeah, maybe in my lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see like a rear end accident or even a frontal crash, you know, that tail light or whatever, or headlight, that glass is usually pretty much spread across an entire accident scene because it's with the impact of the car and momentum and gravity pushing all that metal or you know, glass forward. Again, I'm not a physics expert, but guess what? This guy on the panel in court is, and you know, I'm just using my noodle and thinking here. You know, most of the time when you see a type of accident, it spreads because momentum of that car is still moving, or in this case, backing up. So I would think that it would have been spread all over.
Yeah. Interesting comment just came in. No airbags went off either. That's actually a pretty solid comment. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, you think it would.
Yeah. I mean, making contact like that, especially at the speed. But the problem is the reason the airbag didn't go off, because why? We found out it takes 25 miles an hour for an impact in that Lexus. But what did the Commonwealth say? 24. Well, it had to be at 24.2 miles an hour. That's how they became the determination. And if you're looking at that, where's the data that provides that it was going at that speed? Well, because they had to have been that because it wasn't 25 miles an hour, because the airbag would have went off.
Very delicately selected speed that they estimated.
Bring it down. You know, just gonna bring it
24.999. I think is what it was. Yeah,
9999999.
Yeah.
And I just want to remind everybody before we do go back into the video, I'm doing an entry drawing tonight for a free Karen Reed hat, courtesy of Bulma hats on Etsy. And if you just enter hashtag free Karen Reed, that'll get you entered in. And we're going to do the drawing towards the end of the show. And I'll just have you vet you via email, and we'll get this sent out to you free of charge. So, all right, here we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Crash Daddy, brought to you by Poland Spring Water.
The damage to the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Describe that, please.
I'm sorry.
So the primary damage was to the right
hashtag
tail light.
FKR.
It appeared to be fractured.
I screwed up. FKR. Hashtag FKR will get you entered. Sorry about that. I said free Karen Reed.
I'm not entering because I don't want to. If I end up winning, I don't want to think it's corrupt and rigged like most of the things that go on.
You'd be a grifter. Damn grifter.
The majority of the lens cover, so that clear and red plastic covering missing from it. In addition to that, if you're looking at the back of the vehicle, to the left of that, in the area above there's also another tail lamp assembly on the lift gate. So above that assembly, there was a small dent along with some paint chips on the bumper, more so on the wraparound section as it kind of curves around to the right side of the vehicle. There appeared to be some superficial scratches as well in that area.
Was there any other damage or defect?
You know, I'd like to just keep it here in the U.S. because I know the overseas shipping sometimes gets kind of troubling, get caught in customs or just get lost. I promise in the future I'll do something logistically where I can do that, but I like to just keep it probably here to U.S. audience tonight. I'm sorry, I'm not forgetting about you all, but later down the road, if I can iron out logistically how to do that, I definitely will do it. So, but thank you for asking and making that clear. I should have made that a little bit clearer. So sorry about that. All right, here we go.
Information that you were able to glean from your review, the photogrammetry, damage to the Lexus, the bumpers, the panels, the quarter panel, the sheet metal, anything like that.
Good point.
No, the rest was remarkably intact.
Is it common in vehicle pedestrian collisions that there's some sort of bumper displacement and or sheet metal deformation that's concomitant to that?
Absolutely. Assuming a pedestrian is positioned in a normal upright position, you certainly would expect to see damage to the bumper. In a lot of cases, what happens is, the bumper is just clipped on. So again, the force of that impact will oftentimes cause the bumper to kind of become unmounted or unclipped. You certainly could see deformation to body paneling, such as the lift gate or the quarter panel as well.
Is that especially true at higher speeds, meaning above 15 miles per hour or so?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Was there any apparent damage to the Lexus that appeared consistent with any kind of pedestrian interaction that you saw?
No, it was really confined to just the taillight, a very isolated portion of the vehicle.
He layers his questions well, Alan
During
Jackson.
your review and your investigation, did you note?
Let me just do this really quick. Let me just bounce out. I want to show everybody. This is what a crash looks like at 25 miles an hour. Just to give you some context as to what that looks like. This is a crash at 25 miles an hour. I knew it was going to have music. This is what a crash is. That's what a crash will do. That's an impact. Now, I get it. It's car on car. It's not a human being. But this is the type of damage that it would do at 25 miles an hour. And that's see the back bumper? That kind of proves the theory. I know this is not, listen, it's not the scenario here that we're dealing with, but I just wanted to show what a 25-mile impact would cause. So,
and that's vehicle to vehicle causing that taillight
Right.
to shatter like that on that vehicle, not a human arm or a human body. It's a solid object, which I've argued, many of us have argued for quite a long time, that probably that's what it would have taken to cause the vehicle to shatter its taillight. In any event, it's hitting a person's arm that's not a solid, stable object that's almost immovable is not going to cause that kind of breakage on a taillight at all. It's their whole Commonwealth and state police, Canton police, whatever they want to say, it's all a farce.
And even if you look at that video close, just even that impact from the car, the taillight actually is mostly intact.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
And that's metal on metal objects smashing each other. So
yeah,
I didn't miss this, Jamie. I want to get back to this. NOLA support motions granted to poll jurors along with a little something extra. In NOLA, we call, what is this? Lag? I don't know if that's what that word is. Lag, I don't know. To dismiss counts 1 and 3. And then in NOLA, I don't know what this is a Cajun French noun, a little extra. Okay. I'm trying to interpret it. Maybe you can interpret a little further in the chat. Not being rude. I'm trying to get to what you're trying to say. So please elaborate a little bit in the chat and I'll bring it up. Okay. Yeah, I can't read either. My glasses.
Information concerning items
I did find them, by the way.
Found on the bumper.
Yes.
What was that?
I believe it was noted there was 2 apparent glass fragments located on the top bumper cover.
That traveled all the way from
of the
Canton
presence of
to
those items or the lack of
I mean,
material
Canton to Canton, a snowstorm.
in your view?
Well, again, I think it's going back to the scene evidence. Again, we knew that there was glass fragments, what appeared to be from a drinking glass, at the scene of the alleged incident.
Is there any glass consistent with the glass that was supposedly found on the bumper, in the taillight housing, the taillight mechanism, anything from the car, the Lexus, that would account for that glass?
Okay, I think I understand. So the taillight itself is not comprised of any glass. It is all plastic. So that damage, or I should say that glass on the top bumper cover could not have come from the right taillight.
Now, based on your review of the information.
Can you rewind that about 5 seconds?
I heard you kind of
hype
a little bit.
Brian, do you know how to do the quick 10-second backup with the keyboard? Do you know what the key is for
No,
that?
how do you do that?
So if you click J once or twice, it will go back 10 seconds. And if you hit L once or twice, it will go forward. So L to fast forward, K to pause, and J to rewind. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. All right, we'll see.
Yeah.
Just tell me if I'm in the area. If not, I'll go back.
Sure, just like 10 seconds is fine.
That would account for that glass.
Okay, I think I understand. So the taillight itself is not comprised of any glass. It is all plastic. So that damage, or I should say that glass on the top bumper cover could not have come from the right taillight.
Can you pause that for a second?
It's
The
not
glass on
comprised
the
of any.
top of the top bumper couldn't have come from that taillight. I'm just trying to interpret what he's trying to say there. Maybe I'm not getting it, but
yeah, because
like
it's plastic.
It's plastic. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
All right.
So,
just wanted to hear that again. Sorry.
Yeah.
Glass. It is all plastic. So that damage, or I should say that glass on the top bumper cover could not have come from the right taillight.
Now, based on your review of the information that was provided to you, did you undertake any testing of that vehicle? I'm sorry, any testing concerning the damage to the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
All right. Can you describe what that testing was?
So we performed, again, this is with Dr. Rentschler and I working together on this again, we performed projectile testing to the tail lamp with a drinking glass as well as a hybrid head form.
Let's take those one at a time. How would you describe the drinking glass test?
Certainly. So again, from our review of the evidence, we knew that we had an isolated portion of damage to Lexus confined to the taillight. So we know that we're dealing with potentially a small object that could have created that. Looking at, again, the evidence in terms of the scene photographs, we know that we have a damaged drinking glass at the scene in the vicinity of the fragments of the taillight. So the theory that Dr. Rentschler and I put forward is potentially an individual threw this drinking glass at the back of the Lexus, causing the taillight to fracture.
I'm going to interrupt you right there. You and Dr. Rentschler formed that theory and wanted to test that theory, correct?
Yes.
You were not told that theory by the defense because you've never met us.
Correct.
You were not told that theory by the Commonwealth. You've never met them, correct?
Correct.
Your theory was the product of simply having some facts extant in the data. Got a broken drinking glass, a broken taillight. Let's put them together and figure out if the drinking glass could be responsible for the taillight and vice versa.
Absolutely, yes.
And that was your determination of, well, we were given instructions to reconstruct this. Let's look at every single angle, correct?
Absolutely. And I will note, as part of the engagement with the entity that retained us, we were asked not to do any outside research or investigation of the case. It was to be based solely on the evidence that we were.
There's my point. There's my point. It's solely on the evidence and the data that they received. There's no ulterior motive. And this is what I said, Maz. Their job is, when someone gives them evidence, someone gives them material, they look at it and say, is this plausible? Do your experimentation and see what you come up with. And that's what they did.
Yep.
It's not a manipulation.
No.
This is not to be, work for the defense. It's not to work for the Commonwealth. We've established that under oath. It's just to say, hey, yes, or hey, no.
Yeah.
Pretty simple stuff.
Yep. Look at everything and see what you can come out with and find, what's plausible, what's not plausible. And then that's it. And whatever they said happened didn't happen. And it's just a fact. And no one can refute that. It's like Kevin Bacon said in A Few Good Men, these are the facts of the case and they are undisputed. It's just, that's the way it is. It's just, these theories don't line up. They came up with a bunch of stuff that they created on a whim, and they never thought down the road that ARCA experts would be on the stand saying, well, I'm afraid your theory is wrong, sir.
Yeah. And just crush them all to pieces. DB Plus 999 super sticker. I appreciate that. All right, let's keep going here.
Provided.
Okay. As a matter of fact, and importantly, while you were doing your testing, had you ever even heard of the Karen Reed case?
No.
Great question.
There you go. On the record.
So getting back to that testing, and I interrupted your flow, you were looking at whether or not the glass could have produced the damage to the rear taillight that you saw, correct?
Correct.
And what did you do in furtherance of making a determination about whether or not that was possible?
Certainly. So myself and one of our lab technicians at ARCA, we designed and developed a pressurized air cannon. So it was capable of firing a projectile such as a drinking glass at the taillight. So it essentially you can think of it kind of as a giant cannon, but it had a barrel, and then there was a valve that would open rapidly, and directly behind that was a pressurized vessel. And depending on the pressure, the PSI of that vessel, would determine essentially the speed at which that glass would be projected into the taillight.
So you literally built a cannon?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
We built the bazooka.
Tell me what the results of your testing was with this pneumatic.
How do you do it? You go, all right.
Depending on the pressure, the PSI of that vessel would determine essentially the speed at which that glass would be projected into the taillight. So
you literally built a cannon?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
Good job.
Yeah.
Tell me what the results of your testing was with this pneumatic cannon.
This is the stuff they do. They're passionate about.
Drinking glass.
Yeah.
Certainly. So we performed two different tests in terms of speeds. The target speeds were 30 and 40 miles per hour.
Why was that?
Well, so with consultation with Dr. Rentschler, he indicated that that is a reasonable speed at which an adult male or an individual, for that matter, could throw a drinking glass
Pretty
at the
good.
taillight.
Had anybody up to that point, anybody told you any specific,
Can you pause it for a second?
Yeah, sure.
I just want to say this. I'm not trying to tear down the ARCA experts, but I just want to make this point. None of us needed the ARCA experts to come to these conclusions ourselves, at least on this particular side. But it is very wonderful to have the ARCA experts to come out and say this stuff, so the people on the other side that do not believe this can hear this stuff. Just wanted to say that. That's it.
No, and it's true. I mean, you know, and listen, I don't want to bag on the O'Keefes. They've been through enough. You know, I want people to keep in mind, you know, as much as we seek justice for Karen, we cannot forget about John. John needs to be, you know, to the forefront as well. And it's just, I just don't understand. And you know, I'm going to go back to you know, talking about Paul O'Keefe. You know, he gave that interview, and I almost feel a little bit bad for him in the sense of like, dude, you just sat through and watched this testimony, and these are people with like legitimate scientific qualifications, and they're telling you right in front of your eyes, they're showing it to you. This just, it did not happen the way that the Commonwealth is saying. And I wish, you know, they'd wake up to it a little bit.
Oh, I know.
You know? And
I know.
It's kind of heartbreaking in the sense, you know, I want Paul and their family to, you know, have justice and, you know, and go to bed at night knowing that, you know, after Karen Reed is walks out of that courtroom a free woman because she didn't do this, that, you know, hopefully the authorities go after the people that did. And we know that the people inside 34 Fairview are the people that really need to be in Karen's position right now. You know, that's my feeling on that. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, I don't want to judge them and say anything negative about them, but I will say this is that sometimes in life people don't want to face the hard honest truth, because how horrifying would it be to find out that your family member was the product of a murder and a cover-up like this. So it'd be a horrifying story to believe. It'd probably be easier to want to just believe that a girlfriend went crazy one night and backed into him and killed him, and that's that. But you know, I just find it hard to believe that Karen did this. It's just, you look at all this stuff, and you know, it's all there. It's point blank right in your face, saying to you, this was a cover-up. This was a frame job. This is exactly what you thought it was all along. And anybody that's telling you that this wasn't a frame job and wasn't a cover-up is either lying to you or they're lying to themselves, or both. Yeah. You know, it's
sad. I really, you know, hope they start to understand the truth. And again, I don't want to bag on them at all. They've been through a lot. They've lost Paul. And I'm sorry, they've lost John and they've lost Paul as well. And you know, it's just crazy.
Had anybody indicated that there was any evidence whatsoever that John O'Keefe had thrown a drinking glass at the tail
light?
No.
Was this another example of you and Dr. Rentschler
and
your team just exploring sort of every possibility and working a little bit in the blind?
Objection.
Sustained.
What was the reason that you decided, or you and your team decided, that you wanted to approximate how a grown man could throw a glass at a taillight?
Well, I think we wanted to have an understanding is when a projectile such as a drinking glass interacted with the taillight, would we get damage on the test taillight that was consistent with that of the subject taillight?
Understood. So based on your theory, were you able to approximate the damage on the taillight?
Yes.
Describe that for us.
So as I mentioned, we ran two tests. The target speeds were at 30 and 40 miles per hour. And there was a little bit of variability in terms of what our target was and what we actually achieved. So the achieved speeds were at 31 miles per hour and 37 miles per hour. So there's just, depending on how the glass leaves the barrel and some of the rotation can affect some of the speed, or ultimately the end result speed to that. So what I will say though is that with the 37 mile per hour projectile into the taillight, we noted and observed that there was damage that was consistent with that of the subject tail lamp, and that the test tail lamp had the majority of the outer lens fractured and missing, broken into pieces, as well as some underlying damage to some of the internal components as well.
Are you saying, well, let me ask you a different question. You were able to replicate the damage to the taillight using a pneumatic cannon firing the glass at 37 miles an hour directly at the taillight, correct?
Correct.
All right. And that would also shatter the glass too, correct?
Correct.
Did you do any testing about whether or not that damage to the taillight could be produced by a person simply holding a glass and being hit by the car driving in reverse?
We didn't do any testing of that, and primarily because, again, if we're looking at the arm and its total length, right? We only have a narrow damage pattern, which on the taillight, if you think about where where it meets the lift gate into where it starts to wrap around to the side of the vehicle, that's only about 6.5 inches in width.
All right. When you fired the glass into the taillight was static. In other words, it was not going to move. It was immovable at that point, correct?
Correct.
All right. So the glass is hurling through the air at 37 miles an hour and hits the static object that's resisting, and that smash is what produced ultimately the taillight damage that you were able to replicate. Is that right?
Yes.
If a person were holding in his hand the glass and the taillight were to hit that hand, the hand would not remain static, correct?
Objection.
Why are you objecting to that, Lally?
Yeah.
Sit down.
I mean, that's just, it's so logic, because I think he talks about it, or I think he talked to Trooper Paul. The arm is a hinge, you know, it's going to fly back. I mean, Maz, I know you're in martial arts.
Yeah.
And you know, when you go to block a punch, and I've taken a little martial arts myself, you know, you go to block a punch, that arm is going to probably fly back because you're creating motion into that object, arm coming at you. And help me out
Hand
here.
to hand.
I'm losing it.
Arm to arm, hand to hand. Yeah, if you come
Right.
through, you're gonna create some force against the defender. There's the attacker. You come out, you're gonna move the counter. You're gonna counter it. Basically, the block's like a counter attack, really.
Right.
Without a physical attack, you're counter attacking the attacking limb. So if there's a hand coming at you like this, you're counter attacking it like that with a chop or whatever punching motion you use or redirection. Yeah, it would cause there'd be some resistance there against
Sure.
the attacker. Yeah.
Right. And that's essentially what Alan Jackson's getting to here.
Right.
If the taillight were the taillight were to make contact with a person holding a glass, would that replicate what you did in terms of you're firing a glass into the taillight? In other words, are they apples and apples?
No, I don't think it would be the same.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, again, the damage to the back of the Lexus, again, is confined to just that roughly, again, when we're talking about the taillight itself, that 6.5 inch section in width.
Right.
So it's inconsistent with the total length of the arm, and certainly from discussion with Dr. Rentschler, inconsistent with the injuries to the arm.
So given everything in your investigation was revealed concerning this testing, are you saying that the taillight was damaged by John O'Keefe holding a drinking glass that was hit by an SUV?
Objection.
Why he always objects to this stuff? It's like, what's the point? What's the point of objection here? Why? Just let it roll, man. He baffles me sometimes
Because
this
it's
guy.
going too much in the favor of the defense.
That's right.
Gotta
Yeah.
sort that out.
Yeah.
Gotta shut them down.
All the information that you provided, you have
Look
not
at his
provided
body
anything
language.
that suggests that John O'Keefe threw.
What was it to go back, Jay? Look at Hallie's
Yeah,
body
Jay, yeah.
language when it comes back.
He's like,
that your investigation
He's just all hunched
revealed
over.
concerning this testing. Are you saying that the taillight was damaged by John O'Keefe holding a drinking glass that was hit by an SUV?
Objection.
Watch this. Watch. Watch this body language.
You, in all the information that you provided, you were not provided anything that suggested that John O'Keefe threw a glass at the taillight.
Objection.
Sustained.
Their approach.
Yeah, it's just, yes.
Now, can we approach so we can actually just talk this out as to why I can't ask this expert whether or not John O'Keefe threw a cocktail glass at the rear of a moving vehicle or non-moving vehicle? I mean, is this really this complicated that we need to sidebar over this?
Yeah, and Jody's got a great point. Bev's not allowing the testimony and the evidence again. And you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, this judge is for the Commonwealth. Keep that in mind. All right, to fast forward again, Maz, it's what, L or K?
L. J is rewind, K is pause, L is fast forward. Every time you tap it, it's about 10 seconds.
Good little trick.
Oh, yeah. I started to pick up that. I'm like, I don't think he knows this. Let me tell you the trick.
Don't know.
I saw you double speed fast forwarding. I'm like, guy, I don't think he knows. That's all right. We'll get you.
So we wanted to do an evaluation of the interaction between the back of a head. In this case, we used again, talking about that instrumented dummy again, we used the instrumented hybrid head form to perform a drop test to evaluate the forces of an interaction between a taillight from the Lexus and the human head.
What height did you choose to perform this drop test?
7.5 feet.
Why did you choose that height?
Well, if you calculate it through physics and the acceleration due to gravity, that would equate to an impact speed of 15 miles per hour at that height.
And what was the significance of 15 miles per hour?
Well, that was essentially kind of a starting point for us, if you will. So I will tell you that in reverse, 15 miles an hour is fast. I don't know if you've ever looked at your speedometer when you're pulling into your driveway, reversing into a parking stall. Most people probably don't go more than 5 miles an hour or so. So 15 miles an hour in reverse is fast, especially when we're talking about, it's my understanding it was nighttime. There was winter conditions, potentially wet or icy roads. So again, that speed is going to be what I would say on the high end for going in reverse. So also in addition,
can you pause
of course.
One quick moment. So I was talking about this yesterday, and I've talked about it at least once in the past on my show. So I actually tested this out on my SUV last fall, September, October, when this actually happened. So there's a church parking lot nearby me that I actually started to practice my driving in when I was a teenager, when I had my permit. And it would just, when I first got in a vehicle for the first time, I was in the family vehicle, and I would just drive around that empty parking lot at night and get used to moving the wheel and braking and speeding up and all that. So I said to myself, I thought of that one day, and I'm like, why don't I just go back there right now? And I bet you there's no vehicles there at night. I'll drive there. So I went the longest part of the driveway as I could, or parking lot as I could. It's about 300 yards deep. And I'll tell you, I probably got about halfway across that parking lot before I finally decided to brake. And I think I only got up to about 20 miles an hour in reverse. I probably went at least 150 yards, not feet, 150 yards. And that was probably, I never even hit 24 miles an hour before I started to tap those brakes, because it is fast. It's extremely fast. You feel like you're out of control when you're doing it. And I just said, let me tap the brakes here. But I'm telling you, the 24 miles an hour at the 60 feet, I'm just not buying, given the curb, given the weather conditions. And Mel, no snow on the ground, perfect standard conditions on the ground that day when I did that.
Yeah, backing up in reverse is it's weird. It's just a weird function. It doesn't feel normal because we don't drive that way.
Right.
So when you do it and you back up at a fast speed in reverse, it's odd. I mean, I've done it. I think the same thing like what you've done, like in a parking lot or maybe on a street. I've kind of punched it and hit it, and it's hard because you're not used to, keeping your head like this, and you're literally trying to joggle the wheel. So you got to think that's an unnatural motion. It's not like what we're used to doing driving.
Right.
And it's strange. So okay, let me do this. I think we just had some gifted memberships. Jody, thank you so much. Gifted 5 memberships. I appreciate that. Welcome in new members. You have access to all the members only content on the front page. Did you freeze? Did I lose you?
I'm good. I'm looking for tape right now. I actually have it on tape. 1 second.
Yeah. Take your time. I'll keep playing through here.
With respect to kind of just the nature of that speed, it's my understanding through discussion with Dr. Rentschler that at 15 miles an hour, you start to see significant injuries to the human body when it makes contact with a vehicle. And I think one last point is that we needed to pick a speed where, again, this is kind of just
I got the 21 miles an hour in reverse on this tape, and I was about 150 yards out. That's how long it took me to get to 20. And let's, of course, that's what I mean. It's right there. I see it right there on the tape. I got right up to, sorry to hold you up on this, but
no, it's okay.
I got right up to 20 on the dot right there. Yeah, there, actually right above 20. There it is. I don't know if this can come up on the screen, but there it is right there.
Hang on, I'll solo you out. Let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About 21 miles. That's what I registered. That was the peak speed that I got to before deciding I felt the need to brake. And by that point, I'd already been well beyond 60 feet. Different model vehicle, of course, but I should say different make and model, but still, I mean, I gunned it as fast as I could. And it just all of a sudden, I'm like, let me shut this thing down right now. But I was way beyond that distance. So that's just my thoughts.
And in these, I'm a rookie. Well, we like the rookies here. No worry. We just love you being here. All right, let's keep playing on
brainstorming where we would have damage to the taillight, right? It would fracture it, but it wouldn't completely obliterate it. So we knew if we chose a speed, for instance, of 40 miles an hour, we know we're going to completely essentially explode the taillight. But if we do, 1 mile an hour, we may not do anything to it, right? So we kind of had to pick a middle ground to again cause damage to the taillight.
What was your conclusion with following that testing? What was your conclusion with regard to whether or not it was consistent or inconsistent with the damage to the truck, the taillight was consistent or inconsistent with making contact with John O'Keefe's head at or above 15 miles an hour?
So strictly speaking to a damage perspective, the 15 mile an hour interaction between the hybrid head form and the test tail lamp produced significantly more damage than that of the subject vehicle. So that indicates that, again, the damage on the subject tail light was less than that of the test tail light.
So if I were to ask you whether or not there would be more or less damage to the tail light if you increase the speed to 24 miles an hour, what's your conclusion?
Well, you're talking about significantly more kinetic energy. So if you just think about it from, again, a kinetic energy standpoint, kinetic energy is equal to 1/2 times the mass and the velocity squared. So if you're squaring that velocity and you're going from 15 up to 24 miles per hour, you're going to get a significant amount of more energy associated with that. Probably.
Yes, Kimmy, I just want to break right here, and it was probably a bad point to break, but Kimmy, did the FBI hire ARCCA? Yes, completely independent from the Commonwealth and defense. And that is our biggest point here of doing this stream today and talking about this is that, reiterating to everybody, there's no agenda here. This organization and these experts were handed a case file of information, and they just had to recreate the scene based off that information and see if the theory of how John O'Keefe died was plausible. That being hit by Karen Reed's SUV. Did she create those injuries on John? And their conclusion was no. And you're gonna hear that here today. And remember, this is under oath. These are experts. There's no game. There's no skin in the game, I guess, to say, for them to lie. And anyway, if they were lying, it would be really bad because that could constitute to them going to jail. So I don't think this gentleman wants to do that.
No.
I can pull up my calculator, but you're probably looking at 2.5 more times energy than the 15 mile an hour test.
Which means 2.5 more times the damage to the taillight?
Certainly.
Which you did not see in your review of the materials, correct?
Correct.
So what is your opinion or conclusion as to whether or not the damage to the taillight was caused by striking John O'Keefe's head?
From a damage standpoint, it was inconsistent.
I want to shift gears back to the injuries that you saw concerning Mr. O'Keefe's arm, his right arm. During the course of your investigation, did you look at photographs and investigate the injuries to his right arm?
Yes, sir.
What's the width of the taillight? specifically from where it meets the lift gate on the to the left side.
Kimmy,
I'm sorry,
I'm going to tell you, don't
to the
believe
side of
them.
the vehicle, the right
You
side.
just heard it.
To the right.
You literally just heard it right there, Kimmy, from under oath testimony from an expert. They said it did not happen. So you don't argue with those people. They're just worthless. Stick to your convictions. Stick to the truth. You know what it is, and that's my best advice.
Agreed.
Right, here we go.
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier, that is about 6.5 inches. It starts to wrap around to the right side. So really, it's even though the taillight continues, it's not projecting out on the back end where it's again wrapping around. So in terms of the width that is facing the rear, if you will, it's about 6.5 inches.
And you noted that there was a dent and some paint chips that you identified above the lift gate, correct?
Correct.
How far away from the right side of the vehicle were those scratches and that dent?
Approximately 20 inches.
What was the significance of that distance?
Well, again, to go back to your question about, I think if somebody was holding a drinking glass, right, and their arm was extended to cause that damage, or if it's theorized that those dents and chips were from that. Again, the thing that sticks out to me is that you have essentially the Lexus taillight.
So ask another question.
What
Oh,
is
he was
the-
almost pissed there. I didn't notice that before. He was almost pissed. That's interesting. I never noticed that.
What was the significance of that distance?
Well, again, to go back to your question about, I think if somebody was holding a drinking glass, right, and their arm was extended to cause that damage, or if it's theorized that those dents and chips were from that. Again, the thing that sticks out to me is that you have essentially the Lexus taillight.
So ask another question.
Ask it a different way.
What's the significance of
He was pissed
whether or not there was damage between
because he knows
the
he's
dent
right.
and the tail light?
Yep.
In other words, that 20-inch area. Was it dented? Was it harmed in any way?
So in terms of, again, if we're talking about, again, looking at the back of the vehicle and we go to kind of where that right tail lamp just meets the lift gate, as I mentioned, there's another lamp assembly on the lift gate itself. There's also a chrome trim piece above that, and then certainly the body paneling to the liftgate itself. And I think what stood out to me is that between that dent and the fractured taillight, there was no observable damage to that area, which I would have expected had an arm been positioned there.
Can you calculate, or could you calculate, or did you calculate the amount of force that would be required to strike a person just only on the outstretched
Crazy
portion
right
of his
here,
arm
man.
in order to project him a number of feet, for instance, 30 feet in one direction or another?
30 feet.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm objection.
I didn't say anything and you're objecting to it. I just said, hello, good morning. Objection.
Unreal. Oh, I can't.
break
I
it
saw
down.
him outside and everything in my mind said,
I'll
ask
ask
him
you the same
questions
question
now.
without the 30 feet.
Okay.
Were you able to calculate, or could you calculate the force that would be required to strike a person on his outstretched arm hard enough to spin him around and project him a number of feet?
Pirouette.
Can you pause it for
If
one
you're
quick
talking-
Yeah.
second? I just want to talk about something. So
Go ahead.
basically, if I was standing like maybe like this and I
Yep.
got hit, my arm being in this, like I said, I was holding the glass like this and I got hit with my arm intact. Then the vehicle hit my arm into my body. Okay. Or my arm was already in my body. I got hit like this. That would be a different scenario than an outstretched arm. Okay. Because my arm would be more compact in this situation. Right. So if someone backed into you, say on whatever, there would be a more solid object to hit your arm. Your arm would be more solid. It would be more secure to the body, right? Now, if my arm's outstretched, it's not secure to the body, so it moves like this, right? It moves around a lot easier because my arm is not close to my body. So if there was an outstretched arm, that significantly lessens any chance of taillight breaking because the arm is now the arm on its own basis. It's outstretched from the
On a
body.
hinge.
It's
Yeah.
moving like this. But if it's close to my body like this, basically the impact the arm is going to, the body's going to impact a lot of the, absorb a lot of the impact. It's going to basically just be like hitting my body with my body weight
Right.
being factored in. So that's when basically you would say, well, that body would be getting hit like this. It would be all about the force of the body. So either way, it's unrealistic. If it's an outstretched arm, it's just the weight of the outstretched arm that goes flying. There's not going to be shattered taillight. If the arm is in, say he's holding the glass like this, and gets hit like this, that's not going to cause it either, because the guy's not, like we saw in the video earlier, the one vehicle hitting another vehicle, that was shattered taillight, because there was a heavy vehicle in front of that was hit by a vehicle driving into it. They had significant force to cause that shattering. But what was he, 175, 200, 220 pounds tops?
Yeah.
That's not going to, a body like that's going down real quick. And he's probably getting dragged under the vehicle potentially. And he's not even pirouetting. He's probably just going to get hit, go down, and then get run over. And it's just that. So that's what I'm saying. So if the arm's outstretched, it's a quick knock away. There's no shattered taillight. If it's into his body, he's getting bumped and dragged to the ground anyways. There's no taillight shattering in any case whatsoever. The fact of the matter is they saw a little crack in that taillight because Karen had hit John O'Keefe's vehicle while backing out. They heard about it because Karen told two individuals who probably told, maybe not, told those officers, or the officers just happened to notice and they said, hey, let's abandon this theory and let's just say that she hit him and it shattered the taillight, and that's how it happened. And like I said, I got punched in the arm right here in martial arts 2 weeks ago, and it caused a bruise. It triggered all the way up my arm and all the way up to my bicep, causing a bruise. So if he got hit by a taillight, then why is there no bruising all over his arm? But additionally, there would not only just be bruising at that location, there would be bruising like me. I got hit. It's on, it's bleeding out here, the screen.
Yeah,
but I got hit right here, like this, and it caused the trigger effect up my arm, and the bruise actually appeared here. So if he got attacked here, there would have been bruises not only at that location, but probably up here too. It would have triggered up somehow.
But what we saw, we just saw dog bites there.
So. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. And Dr. Marie Russell has something to say about that. I mean, it looks like he was, I mean, let's just be honest. He looked like he was attacked by a wolf in the middle of the woods. I mean, let's be honest.
And you know, go ahead. I'm sorry, Maz.
Oh yeah, I'll wrap it up. But you can literally see teeth bites and claw marks because all the marks are consistent with each other. In other words, you look at the elbow, it looks like there's teeth marks above and below that elbow. You look here and you look here. I'll move my arm. Look here and you look here. There's gashes like that, and they're almost equal in length. Now, people figure that they would all be claws would have to be like this, but that's not true, because the way the dog's paw work is like the human hand, where they're slightly off. And then you also have to account for the fact that if the dog attacked, John's probably trying to move his arm away at the same time. Now, the arm has angles. It's not always going to be a clean attack. He could be like this. And if you look at my hand right here and you move your arm around, that creates a difference in how that's going to gash. So that's why you see all those off, uneven gashes where it seems like they're almost equal in distance from each other, similar to claws, but they're a little bit misangled because of the way he was attacked. So
yeah, and I think that something's very interesting about that too. When you talked about being hit, you know, like this, we could even try an experiment. You could stand in front of me and I could push you, and I guarantee you, you know, the way that this is all lined up is that supposedly Karen hit him, you know, pretty much what the comment was saying is a straight dead on, you know, hit him. I think he was off to the side a little bit. But if I push you, what's your natural motion going to do? You're going to fall straight back.
Yeah.
And that's where I would say, like, you know, I still don't think, I still think that if you put a human being or a crash test dummy and have them hit at 24 miles an hour, I think the worst thing that probably could happen to them is that they would hit the car. And again, I don't know. I would love to see this in a reconstruction, but I think that you would just literally fall back and probably get up. You'd probably survive from that. You'd have probably you'd probably bump your head. You'd have a concussion, but I don't think that you would die. I just don't see it.
Right.
And the fact is, when you're talking about the arm again, so how did that happen? Like, are they saying that it was the impact of the break from the taillight that when it shattered, that's what caused all the? I mean, it's almost impossible.
So I don't want to take credit for the defense bringing this
For sure.
up, but I actually noticed that Eliza Little said almost word for word what I had said on the Young Jerks a day or two prior. Okay. So I want you. Do you remember the scene at the beginning in Universal Soldier where Van Damme? You remember how Van Damme kills Dolph Lundgren at the end of Universal Soldier, where he puts him onto the spikes? Okay, so his body gets penetrated by the spikes in that fight scene because it's already sharp objects, right? And you'd agree with me that if you kicked them into the dumpster, that there wouldn't have been any cuts or scrapes on his body if that hit a dumpster that was a flat surface, correct? Right. Okay, so what that means is that basically it would almost be like a lancer. Those guys and the horses that ride at each other would have to be sharp, right? So if he was to get hit by a vehicle like this, right, like that, that my fist does not contain any knives or sharp objects. So when I got punched the other day, for example, right, what happened to me? I got hit and I bruised, right? Now, if I were to take my keys and put them in between every single finger that I got, and I was going to drive that into my arm, that would cause cuts and scrapes and all kinds of bleeding, right?
It's probably a penetration more than a scrape, you know?
Right. So in this particular case, if my theory is that if he was going to suffer those kind of wounds from a taillight, then basically that taillight would have had to have already been sharp, have cuts that were able to drive in and cause cuts and scrapes all across his arm. But that doesn't happen because if he had been hit, he would have been hit by a flat surface. And just like we saw in that video, when that taillight shattered after it got hit, it went airborne, right? But it's not a direct hit by that point. So at worst, maybe he would have a few couple of cuts if that was even possible.
If that.
But it wouldn't be that deep.
Yeah.
But what would be that deep is getting bitten by a dog, right? And cut by a dog. That's what makes sense.
It's almost like a wound like this, like you're trying, you know. I would think of a dog that's trained would go for the vital part. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the neck put up like this, but I get it. And we saw that even on Melanie Little's channel with the dog expert, the canine expert. You know, he said you put your arm up, and that's. I mean, he said it's a dog attack. He said, I've seen these over 1,000 times.
Right. And the dog videos that you can watch on YouTube, you probably watch them yourself. You notice that those dogs, when they run people down, they take their arms down. It's just an easy way. Either they blitz them with an all-out attack, or like an all-out blitz, or they just take their arm and drag them right to the ground. In this particular case, that matches that. Now, the head laceration, how does he get the head laceration? Well, he can't possibly get it from the street or the grass for two reasons. If he hit so let's say he got hit, went backwards, landed on the concrete. Well, there's no way to get a laceration like that. And even if that cut was particularly possible, then he would have had massive bruising on the back of his skull. And it would have been all kinds of light red bruising off that as well. That's not existent. Now, if he had fell on the grass, there's no cut, there's no bruising unless rocks are there, which I doubt. And he's not going to hit the curb because the curb is a level like this. There's really nothing there with an edge. So that whole gash in the back of his head is out the window. Someone said earlier, don't forget the bruises on the back of the fist. I'll tell you this right now from experience. When I'm doing martial arts and you're cornered like this, you go right into this kind of cover. There's two kinds of covers you can use typically. You can take your fist like this and press the inside of your knuckles to your forehead to defend like that, or you can go with like over your head like this, and that's where the punches come from. So it's just it all points to a dog attack. It all points to a physical attack by human beings, and it's a combination of both. And anybody that thinks otherwise is kidding themselves, and they don't know what they're talking about. And it's just,
agree.
Yeah, it's just a fact. I mean, there's just no other way around it. This is as clear as day that man, Officer John O'Keefe, was beaten alive by a combination of one individual or more, plus a dog. And then he was left to die in the cold. Because additionally, if he had fell and got hit by the vehicle, he probably would have had bruising to his chest, sternum, ribs. He probably would have had bruises all across his arms. He would have had some kind of whiplash in the back of his head. He probably would have had a triggered bruise, even possibly going down his neck. He would have crashed and hit the ground. He would have had bruised hips if he got hit head on. And there's none of that bruising that's consistent at all. It's amazing that these people think that they're fooling anybody by trying to get on in the courtroom and try to convince people that this is what happened. I mean, the Canton police, state police, and the Commonwealth must think people are total morons. They shouldn't be shocked that we're out there contesting this at all, because it's very obvious that this is a total charade, frame job, and cover up.
I agree. I love it. No, I love it. I love the passion. I can hear the passion in your voice, and that's why I like having you up here. You tell the facts and say it the way it is, and everything comes out of that, and I completely agree.
Right.
All right, let's keep playing through Dr. Wolf here.
This got me wound up just
only
then.
An interaction between the arm and the back of the vehicle. No, there wouldn't be any projection. Again, if you think about
Mazza
this, the arm weighs about, again, with Mr. O'Keefe would be about 11 pounds.
Can you rewind that? I missed
you
it.
still
Sorry.
have, another 200 plus pounds being held down by gravity, and the force is only
would be required to strike a person on his outstretched arm
Yeah,
hard enough to spin him around and project him a number of feet.
If you're talking about only an interaction between the arm and the back of the vehicle, no, there wouldn't be any projection. Again, if you think about this, the arm weighs about, again, with Mr. O'Keefe would be about 11 pounds. So you still have, another 200 plus pounds being held down by gravity, and the force is only acting on the arm. So essentially the arm would be accelerated, but the whole body, because the center of mass is not being struck, would not be projected.
There you go. It just proved your theory.
That's exactly right. I mean, that's exactly it. It would just be like, I'm trying to think. It's like when you're in the weight room and you're pulling the cord like this, it's like your arm's a baseball. Assuming your arm's a baseball and the vehicle would be the bat in the situation. Your arm just goes out. That's it. That's all that would happen.
I agree. Rami, thank you so much for the $9.99. Said my 13-year-old is watching with me. She can't get past no bruises on John O'Keefe. She said, I get hit by a puck in hockey and I'm bruised for weeks, but getting hit by a car doesn't cause any. That's great. I love that. Look at that. That is a intelligent 13-year-old child that just said pretty much the obvious there. And I think that's a really great analogy and very smart.
And that's exactly it, because anyone can take, like, I related it to martial arts, right? He or she related it to a hockey puck. You can take something that and compare it to this, and you can determine an inconsistency through just taking personal experience. That's how blatantly obvious it is, that you could simply look at a personal experience and say, well, when this happened to me, I bruised, and why wasn't he bruised? It's that simple just to look at that.
I agree. Annie says you two do a great show together. Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we always love doing this, these panels for you all. All right, let's keep playing through.
Sure.
Is the absence of the damage
AI says we're discussing the Murdoch trial.
Of damage you described between the dent and
maybe we are.
Maybe we are.
With the exception of the taillight, is that consistent or inconsistent with striking an outstretched arm of a human being?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
That would be inconsistent in my opinion.
They have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
This might be it. Let's see.
And what is your opinion, Doctor, as to the amount of damage that you would expect to see at 15 miles per hour or above on the taillight, if in fact that vehicle were moving in reverse and were to strike something on a human body, for instance, an elbow or an arm?
Objection.
I'll allow
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Probably not.
Sorry.
That's why. Physics, that's why. From your testing, what would you expect to do? What would you expect to see in terms of the damage to the right rear taillight? If in fact that taillight were to make contact with a part of a human body, for instance, an elbow or an arm, at 15 miles an hour or above, what would the level of damage be as compared to the damage that you actually saw?
Well, if we compare it to, again, looking at the drop test that we did with the hybrid head, which weighs about 10 pounds. So again, if we're talking about now a human arm that's comparable in that same weight, we certainly would expect to see a comparable level of force and damage. So as I mentioned, if the arm is outstretched across the right tail lamp and into the liftgate section, I would certainly expect to see deformation to that body paneling, even potentially the tail light on the liftgate itself and that chrome piece as well.
I just want to make this clear to the audience, and I don't want anybody to take any offense to this. I understand there's a lot of people that send me a lot of information, a lot of cases. It's very hard for me to focus on multiple cases, and I really got to pick and choose in the direction of what kind of material I want to take on the channel. So it's not any offense that I don't get back to you. I know Turtle Boy has talked plenty of times about this. It's because we get so focused in on one or maybe a couple things that we're juggling. It's not that I don't think that any of your cases are valid. It's one, I just don't have the time, and I'm sorry, because I think that all the cases that you bring to us are all valid and need to be looked into, you know, and I appreciate that you trust us enough to send us that information. You got to keep in mind, I work a full-time job. So I work 40 plus hours, and I do this like 40 plus hours. And in between that, I have my personal life, and also I'm trying to source and come up with material for my channel. So it's very, very tough. And I understand, like, Karen Reed has been the primary focus here on the channel, at least over the last 10 months, 11 months or so. So, you know, I appreciate that. There are some other things that I am working on to get out here in the future and kind of, I wouldn't say shift the direction of LTL, but, you know, bring it out to a wider audience. And I've been doing some testing on it with some different cases, and you know, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and, you know, I'm going to keep doing that. So it's not that I don't ignore you. It's just I don't have the time. If I can make this a full-time career sometime at some point, I will have more time, I promise. But
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I relate to that. I relate to that. Turtle Boy just said, he's in the comment, he goes, Brian is saying this so much nicer than I do.
I didn't see. Is he in the chat? Oh, he goes, Brian.
He's in the chat, yeah.
Oh, thanks, Aiden. I appreciate that. And you know, listen, I had conversation with Aiden out on the courthouse steps, and we had Mazza was out there, and Tom, and, you know, most of the creators that were up there that showed up, and the conversation we had, great. And, you know, I put him on the spot, but anytime, Aiden, anytime you want to come in and sit down in the LTL studio, I got 2 nice comfortable chairs here, and Mazza can contest to that. And I'd love to have you come in and talk to us. And I'd like to actually know more about you as a person, and you know, what the direction of you know, Turtle Boy Live and your, you know, your outreach will be, you know, future. But listen, man, you are the man. You know, without you, we would not be here, you know, involved in the Free Karen Reed movement. And I have not denied that. I've said that all along. Without your reporting and the balls that you have, the things that you have done to put yourself out there on the line, I really respect you in that sense. And I'm not going to speak for Maz, because I'm pretty sure he's going to say the same thing.
I agree 100%, 100,000%. Turtle Boy has been awesome. He's just been amazing. I've followed him for a long time, and this was the story that stood out above all the other stories. It was like, this is so much more involved, and it was just insane to read what I read. And the more and more I kind of looked at it, I was like, oh my goodness, this story is insane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, honestly, one of my favorite Turtle Boy blogs of all time, a long time ago, I don't remember what year it is now, he did a town-by-town review of almost every single town in Massachusetts and blogged about it.
Yeah.
And when you get to some of the towns that are a little bit more low-end, those articles were some of the funniest articles I've ever read in my entire life. That was a funny series he did. I enjoyed that one a lot. He went town by town. And I won't say my town, but my town got good marks, so I was happy about that.
And I also want to say this. I know someone just did a recent reference check about me and kind of used you, and I appreciate the kind words that you said about me. So I want to just publicly put that out there. Thank you. I appreciate that. And you know, you're a good stand-up dude, and I understand, man. You juggle a lot. And, you know, you put your heart and soul into everything that you do. Your speeches out the others, I've been there for many of them, but that speech on the courthouse steps the other day, the way that you can drive and command the audience is phenomenal. And you have that gift, and you're very, very good at it. And I encourage you to obviously keep going. And I have it right over my door. Every day that I walk out, there is a sticker over my door that says, never give up, never give up. And I'm saying this to all of, the creators that are here, Turtle Boy in the room, all of you watching the stream, Maz on the panel, never give up. Pursue your dream, because it can happen, and pursue your dream if you're in the pursuit of justice. So all good stuff there. So all right, man, let's keep playing through here. Awesome.
Based on the entirety of your investigation, your entire team's investigation, all the testing that you did, all the biomechanical testing and the engineering and the physics testing that you did, in your expert opinion, was that taillight damaged by striking John O'Keefe on the head?
Objection.
Sustained.
In your opinion, was the taillight damaged by either striking Mr. O'Keefe on the head or the arm?
Objection.
Sustained.
Any reproach?
Yes.
Nah, this is just
You are muted.
Lally being Lally.
we're getting
Lally
to the
being
truth.
Lally.
That's why.
Oh,
We're getting to
absolutely.
the truth.
Objection. They immediately called for a sidebar over there. He's like, come on.
Is the damage to the taillight that you saw consistent with striking a human head?
No.
In your
Yeah.
expert opinion, is the damage to the taillight consistent with striking a human arm?
No.
Thank you. That's all I have.
That's it.
All right, jurors, we will take our morning recess.
Miro, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
All right, Maz, I'm going to leave it up to you. Would you like to do Rentschler, or do you want to do a part 2? I'm up for whatever.
I have plenty of energy right now to probably make it till 10 o'clock or later at this particular rate.
All right, let's go, because I don't think his
Yeah.
testimony was very long.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
it was
going to do the
cool.
cross. I don't really
Yeah.
care to hear the cross of Lally, but we'll go to Dr. Rentschler.
Once this show ends, I'm going to be like, I should have just stayed on and done the show for another half an hour.
All right, let's go here.
When I tell people that after I get done work every day, this is all I focus on for hours on end, I'm not kidding.
No, it is. It's my focus. I mean, this is my passion.
Yeah.
I love doing this. I love, I've said this all along. I really have enjoyed, meeting all of the people that I have through this movement and being able to use the power of a microphone and talk about this stuff, because if not, this is the normal stuff that I talk to my friends and everybody about. So why not come on and give my opinion and give my feedback and let people have a common space that we can come into and conversate about it. What the hell, right?
Absolutely. You got it. And everyone in our chat, everyone in this chat, your chat is awesome. They've been in my chat. These people are awesome.
Just do something productive, use our voices. Let people freaking know, it's a fucking problem. It's a huge problem that's going on in our society today, where the system doesn't work for the people. And it's just insane that the people that are entrusted into these positions to protect us, they use the badge and the gun to literally what's the word I'm looking for, to literally shit, I'm losing my train of thought here.
They weaponize their badge and gun and go above the law with it. Yeah.
Right.
They abuse the badge, they abuse the gun. Yeah. They abuse their powers. Yeah.
Against people that they're supposed to protecting. And it goes into my bigger thought here. And I'm going to talk about this on Friday when I have Todd in. What do we need to do to vet and make sure that people are put into the right? I mean, is it a system that we're always just going to trick people? We're going to get people in that are filthy and greedy and want that power of the badge and gun and exploit that. And we have to worry about that the rest of our lives? Or can we really get honest people in these professions to protect us? I'll be honest with you. I back the blue 100%. I back good people that want to protect with the badge and the gun and uphold our laws in our society. But I'll tell you, Maz, over the last 10 months, my perception of law enforcement has changed. It has changed. And I'm not afraid to put that out there. I have to start questioning some more things here. But I'm going to say, along the lines of doing this and talking about this over the last 10 or 11 months, I've met some really nice, honest police officers. I really have. But this shit needs to stop, man. It needs to be cleaned up in our society.
I have a longtime friend, probably my friend of 24 years, probably around this time right now. Looking at the year it is now. I mean, I've probably been friends with this guy for 24 years. He's been a New Jersey cop for quite a long time, and all he ever tells me is stories about some of these cops out there that are just absolutely dirty and corrupt, and it's insane. And but the good cops are there, and a lot of times, it's like Stallone said in the movie Copland. They just keep their eyes closed and their mouths shut, just like I do, when they see all this stuff going on right before them, because these cops can't do it. And I bet you any money there were state police officers out there that weren't showing it and saying it, but probably behind their face were probably in their head thinking, I'd probably thinking to people right off the top of their head, like, yeah, this guy and that guy are all dirty and all that. And they know that there's a lot going on. We talked about this when I was in your studio recently about all the incidences that have occurred in the state police, and these are just cops that are bad. I mean, they're cops that are bad out there. They get a little bit of power mad and power happy, and they go crazy with it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of great cops out there. I mean, there could be a significant amount of great cops out there at every town, every level. Maybe not Canton, but most towns and all that probably have a good majority of cops. I know my cousin's an active police officer in a town in Massachusetts, has been for a long, long time. Best of my knowledge, he's a good cop.
Yeah. Nah.
But yeah, he's a great guy. I'm sure he's doing good, but I got to tease him if he's watching.
Yeah. And it's just bad. It's just bad. And I think there is more abusive power lately in our system, and I see it, and it's just it makes me a little like, oh, damn, like these are the people we're supposed to trust. And
right.
And it's not only that. I mean, we see it in other positions as well too, our government. And it gets too crazy. But I don't want to get too crazy here. I want to get back to testimony. I just want to do this before we go forward. Tonight, I am giving away one of these great hats that I'm wearing, courtesy of Bulma on Etsy. There's been kind of floating around. They're getting famous here in the Massachusetts area. And I got an extra hat here. So I want to give this away tonight. And the way to enter and get this, you just got to be a US resident, and just type in hashtag FKR in the chat. Now we'll get entered in, and we're going to do the drawing at the end of the show for this hat here, and I'll get it sent out to everybody. So, all right, let's get back to the testimony. We'll play through this. Dr. I think I'm saying it right. Rentschler?
Rentschler, yep, just like a tool. Rentschler, yep.
God, that looks like Albert, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know, yeah.
You solemnly swear the evidence given in the court and during the case study, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Hey, thank you. Hey, it's the guest coordinator. Today, becoming a new member will add $5 to the total. 25% of our total will get back in our Reed's Defense Fund tonight. Thank you.
Could you please state your first and last name, spelling your last name for the record?
Certainly. Andrew Rentschler, Rentschler.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a biomechanical engineer and accident reconstructionist.
And who do you work for?
Quite the credentials.
I work for a company called ARCA.
Pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
I don't think he went to night school for that, Maz. I don't think he took an online course.
I don't think so.
All right, here we go.
LLC.
How long have you been in that position as working for ARCA, first of all?
I've been with ARCA for about 16 and a half years now.
And you indicated that you're the director of biomechanics and human factors. Is that right?
I am. I'm a vice president and the director of biomechanics for the Midwest Division.
Pretty good.
Can you tell us what education, training, and background qualifies you to perform your duties as the director for biomechanics and human factors?
Sure. Well, I've got my BS in mechanical engineering with a minor in biomedical engineering from Carnegie Mellon University in 1995. I then went on to get my master's in bioengineering and biomechanical engineering from the University of Pittsburgh in 2002. And then I went to get my doctorate or my PhD in bioengineering and biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2004.
Doctor, do you specialize in research and analysis to evaluate specifically the study of the relationships between crash injuries and crash forces?
I do, yes, sir.
And when I say crash injuries, we're talking about to human beings.
That's right. Injuries to human beings, whether it be, in a crash, motor vehicle accident, slip and fall, industrial, any type of setting where there's an injury to the human body, I evaluate basically that event and the mechanisms responsible for producing those types of injuries.
Indy,
Doctor,
$2.
does
Thank
it
you.
also include the study of
Nancy
and
Bev
understanding
limited
of
this
human
man's
kinematics,
It does, yes.
information.
as
She
well
did.
as human tolerances?
Yes, sir.
We all know
Thanks
what
for the two.
tolerances mean. What does kinematics mean?
So kinematics is really just the motion of the human body, and it's the study of the human body, how the body moves under different circumstances,
What Mav's
whether you're in a
talking about.
car that's struck from behind, what direction will your body move, slip and fall, how will your body rotate and move. It's really looking at the motion and the response of the body.
Are you certified by any professional associations?
I have a PhD. There's no professional licensure for biomechanical engineering. PhD is the highest basically certification you can get. And I'm also a member of SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers, as well as the American Society for Mechanical Engineers.
Are you an expert in pirouettes?
Have you received additional training and education?
Asking for that guy who lives in the cottage.
Can you perform a pirouette?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He doesn't have pirouette
Further,
expertise. I don't know if we can
beyond
trust
your PhD and the associations that we just talked about,
I have, yes, sir.
can you describe, without going through all the detail, describe the kind of continuing education that you engage in?
Well, I attend seminars and professional classes with respect to biomechanics, as well as action
Attending one
reconstruction,
seminar
but
makes
looking
them
at
more
new
qualified than
technology
Trooper Paul.
and research.
What's that?
Attending so much as one seminar already made him more qualified than Trooper Paul.
I
Actually,
think-
walking in the door and picking up a pamphlet at the beginning
I was
of
gonna
that.
say, I think just opening the textbook is probably going to qualify him more. It's funny. You just took my thought out of my head. I said probably just opening a textbook and looking at it, just even looking at the textbook on the table probably qualifies
Yeah.
him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm going to point this out, and I don't know why, but I just picked this up. But just for the ladies in the room that love the Crash Daddies, take a look to the up where Bev is in the cord is in the shape of a heart. So I know that the ladies are probably loving that as well too.
Oh, man.
Oh
with
God, we're
respect to
sick.
injuries.
We're sick people.
For instance, motor vehicle accidents, if there's new safety measures such as airbags, seatbelt pretensioners,
God.
auto detection devices on vehicles. So really kind of staying up to date with the current research and literature that's out there.
So your specialty, your subfield, if you will, in terms of your engineering degree and education, is literally in accident reconstruction and the effect that accidents and incidents can have on the human body. Is that right?
It is, yes. And biomechanics is really, it's looking at injury to the human body. So, we use traditional engineering principles and apply it to the body, because an injury is just an engineering problem. Instead of looking at a piece of steel that if you know the dimensions and size and you apply a force, it'll bend and break. We look at the human body. How much force does it take, and how does the force have to be applied to get a humerus fracture or an intervertebral disc injury or any type of injury? There's specific forces and mechanisms you need to produce those injuries, and that's what I do as a biomechanical engineer.
Is there a difference between a biomechanical engineer and a doctor
There is, yes.
in terms of injuries?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Just real quick, I got a couple donations coming. Alex, thank you for the 5. So you literally cannot get qualified expert than this man. He's a genius. Great show tonight, gents. Yeah, the show's been great. I we got a little bit of lightheartedness to it. Pending the subject matter here, but I think all the information that's come out tonight has been really great, and I love the absolute, obviously, the participation of Mazza on the panel, but the audience participation has been really great tonight and really throwing some really, really good stuff out there. So, we definitely appreciate that. I also want to notice this too. Cindy, thank you so much for the $15 on Buy Me a Coffee. We'll add that to the total as well. All right, here we go, Maz.
So we really approach injuries from two
Really
different
good show
directions.
Yeah,
Someone has an injury, you go to the doctor, you go to the hospital, the medical doctor will diagnose that injury, determine the best way to treat it, and determine what the prognosis is. As a biomechanical engineer, I look at that injury from a different direction. Here's the injury. Well, how did that injury occur? What type of loading did you need to actually produce that injury? How much force was required? What happened to your body to actually cause that injury to occur? So we approach it really kind of from two different areas. And certainly the doctors diagnose the injuries and determine what they are. And then the biomechanical engineer will come in and we'll look at that injury And not only how is it produced, but ultimately our hope is to mitigate and prevent injuries from occurring, whether in motor vehicle accidents, sports settings, industrial settings, anywhere there's an interaction with the body and the environment. We want to try and make it safer for individuals.
So you're not diagnosing an injury as much as you are trying to figure out the mechanics and the forces behind the injury. Is that right?
That's right. I'm not a medical doctor. I wouldn't diagnose an injury, but given an injury, I understand the mechanics of how that injury is produced and what you need to actually cause that injury to happen.
Are you also published in the field of biomechanics and or engineering?
I am, yes, sir.
Can you describe that?
When I did my graduate work at the University of Pittsburgh, I worked at a place called the Human Engineering Research Lab. And it was associated with the VA in Pittsburgh as well as the University of Pittsburgh. And so we looked at people with disabilities. Well, one of the big things that we did, or one of the major points, was people in wheelchairs. So if you have to propel a manual wheelchair, you put a lot of stress and force on the arm, the shoulder, the elbow, the hands, carpal tunnel. So we look at the injuries that are produced during those types of events. How can we reduce the force acting on the body for someone like that? So it's looking at, again, how the body responds, how we can set up a chair differently to actually reduce the amount of force someone might experience doing that type of an activity.
Have you qualified as an expert in the past in the area of biomechanical engineering and human factors?
I have, yes.
In furtherance of, let me ask it this way. Were you asked to engage in an analysis, ARCA, to be engaged in an analysis of the incident that is currently before the court?
I was, yes, sir.
Did you produce, or did your team produce a report about your opinions and conclusions, including the testing and the methodology that went behind those opinions and conclusions?
We did, yes.
You were not hired by the defense in this case, correct?
Here we go.
No, we were not.
On the
You were
record.
not hired by the Commonwealth in this case.
That's correct. We were not.
When you started your analysis, you didn't know who we were. You did not know who the Commonwealth was.
That's correct.
You'd never heard of the Karen Reed case.
I had not. No, sir.
There you go.
You were contacted by my office after you provided your report, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Were you ever contacted by the Commonwealth?
Not that I'm aware of, no, sir.
And you and I have never discussed the substance of your testimony, correct?
That's correct. We have not.
Would you consider that your analyses, your conclusions and opinions in this case are completely
Danny, thank you for the
independent
$10
of any party in
sticker.
this room?
Thank you.
Objection.
Sustained.
Here we go.
You've not been paid by the defense, is that right?
I have not, no, sir.
And you do not answer to us in any way.
I do not. That's correct.
You indicated
Except
that
that
you
I'm
and your
asking you
team
questions
were
right now, of
asked to
course.
undertake a review of the circumstances. What exactly did you review?
I just want to go back to this and go back to my notes.
Mhm.
My last sentence in my notes. We talked about, debunking the whole Plevin theory. Furthermore, he suggested that ARCA's actions indicated they were serving as a defense witness rather than impartial experts. Both these witnesses just said under oath that they were not hired by the defense and they were not hired by the Commonwealth. They are completely independent. So I don't know why and how the hell he's coming up with this determination, this theory. I mean, you got to be out on Mars somewhere to think that way. I don't get it.
It's like he's wearing
And coming to
glasses
your
that are
opinions
5
and
years
conclusions,
outdated, or 10 years outdated. That's that's the only thing I can think of. It's just how are you, it's like using a microscope, except the lens is all dirty and you really can't see what you're looking at through it. And then you're coming to conclusions that are not, you're not using the right tools and putting the puzzle pieces, 5,000 piece puzzle. You're not putting the pieces together in the right order and assembling the puzzle properly. That's the way I look at that guy. He just doesn't put it together. He has all these thoughts and ideas, but he just doesn't put the whole thing together. Or either that, or he's just, I don't want to call him a liar, but I hate to say that to anybody,
But you know what? I love your first question in that video that I captured. I'm so glad we had it in there. You literally asked him, "Hey, didn't you actually used to support Karen Reed?" And he went, "Yes." And then he went, "Well," then he tailored it.
Yep.
So he was on board. He was free Karen Reed all the way.
Yep. Apparently, Turtle Boy had called him a fence sitter. As Turtle Boy talked about this Saturday night, he mentioned that he called the guy a fence sitter, and then he took the path that a lot of people have taken, it seems, that where they've gone to, and I'll say this and I'll say it again. I think that it's more likely that someone starts out believing Karen Reed is guilty and then flipping to believe she's innocent than the opposite. I find it hard to believe. And it seems like all the people that have flipped from the she's innocent to she's guilty seem to have some kind of motivation to do that, where it's Turtle Boy's offended them somehow. Turtle Boy bad. Exactly. Yeah. And they're all like, it's always the same story. And you heard that from Turtle Boy Saturday night on his show. He goes, oh, I called the guy a fence sitter. And the next thing I know, all of a sudden it's, Karen Reed's guilty and all this. And I have a hard time respecting anybody's opinion. If that's, if they flip, if you flip, it's like if someone in this movement, it's like I had an incident that happened about a year ago at someone on one of the groups, and they insulted me because I wanted to get like a catering truck outside of court, and they said back to me, this is actually the woman that was overthrown out of that group, by the way, if you remember that last year. And basically she had said to me, he goes, it's court, not the Dedham Fair or something like that. And imagine if I had just walked away from that and said, oh, someone that's free Karen Reed has upset me, and now I'm going to go to the opposite side and take the, it's just petty. I don't care what happens. My opinion is not changing. And it's always going to be the same opinion, because when you look at all this, it is what it is. It's a woman that's been framed and a man's murder that's been covered up. Officer's murder that has been covered up.
I wonder if he thought, like, I'll go to the other side and that will bring me, all this self-serving attention, And the funny thing is I look at the fact of, like, you've been on court TV multitude of times. And then I just look at, like, his platform, and I'm like, you really haven't, the needle hasn't really moved, even with all those appearances. It's, if anything, it's helped, this side actually grow and it's just, it's just, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't see it either. I agree with you. I think that there are people that I know that have literally started out and they're like, oh no, she's fucking guilty. And then, everything comes out and they go, oh my God, like, this is a cover up. There's no way that could have happened. So I completely agree.
Performing the tests that you perform.
Well, we looked at, there was police reports with respect to the incident, medical records for Mr. O'Keefe, as well as the autopsy report, photographs of the evidence in this case involving the Lexus, the tail light, the incident scene where the evidence was found, as well as some other documentation.
And you also worked with Dr. Wolf, who just left the courtroom, correct?
I did, yes.
Did you two have sort of a distinct role in, although working as a team, a distinct role in making determinations and conclusions about the incident?
That we did. There was a distinction. Certainly some of our work overlap, but there was a distinction with what each of us actually did and performed with respect to this case.
Following your review and your investigation and analysis, did you make any determination as to whether any of the injuries suffered by Mr. O'Keefe in this case were consistent with producing the damage that was seen on the SUV?
I did, yes, sir.
And what did you base your opinion on?
My opinion was based on certainly the medical records, the description of what the injuries were, the damage that we have to the Lexus, primarily the right rear tail light cover, as well as we performed testing to evaluate the strength of that tail light cover and look at the damage associated with different types of impacts. And also to look at the overall evidence of where everything was found, where Mr. O'Keefe was found, what the injuries were, how they may or may not have occurred based on the damage we have to the vehicle.
So did you look specifically to find whether or not you could determine the forces required for Mr. O'Keefe to suffer the injuries that you saw in the records, medical records, et cetera?
I did, yes. I determined in my analysis whether there was sufficient force with that damaged taillight and interaction with that taillight to produce any of the injuries that were listed or diagnosed in the autopsy report and the medical records.
What, generally speaking, what injuries would you expect to see in a vehicle-pedestrian interaction at, say, 24 miles per hour?
Objection.
I'll allow that, just generally.
Gingerly.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Auntie Bev.
So,
Wait a minute.
24 miles an hour, once you get up to that speed,
Hang on.
you start medical records.
What, generally speaking, what injuries
she
would
say?
you expect to see in a vehicle pedestrian interaction at, say, 24 miles per hour?
Objection.
I'll allow that, just generally, Doctor, if you would.
Generally.
Yes, Your Honor. 24 miles an hour, once you get up to that speed, you start to see fractures. You see significant ligament
Mazza, you
and
just
tendon
said this.
damage. I mean, usually about 15 mile an hour impact is where you start to see damage to, for instance, the leg and the knee. At that speed, you're going to produce, if you impact the vehicle, you're going to produce upwards of 1,000 pounds of force on the body,
Wow.
depending on what part
There
of
you
your
go.
body impacts the vehicle. So certainly at 25 miles an hour, you start to see significant injuries occur.
Is
Measure that
true
back
for
against
any
the
part of
taillight and how
body?
difficult it is to brake. That's a heck of a collision. I mean,
Yeah.
they would have had to the vehicle would have had to have backed into a brick wall to cause that kind of damage.
Or
to the
how about
taillight.
this? When we showed the two cars in the beginning of the
That's
show,
right, yeah.
you know,
That's right,
something
yeah.
like that. You
That's
know, and I
right.
get it. It's not a human. It's not a human. It's two cars. But I just want to show what 25 miles an hour looks like when two cars collide. I mean, it's very significant damage. And I also wanted to show when Dr. Wolf was talking about the back bumper would have most likely lifted off its clips, and you saw that in that that reconstruction video. So
Yep. Two more points about
Finish
that
strong.
video.
Yeah.
The first one is that the taillight, when it broke in that other video we played, does it shatter into what, 30 something pieces, 40 something? No, it shatters into a few pieces. Additionally, imagine how ideally in this implausible scenario that's been stated, it would have taken to get that vehicle to back into John, for that taillight to shatter in a certain way, to light up his arm with penetration, scrapes and cuts and all that, as opposed to just hitting him and just bouncing off his body. It would be insane. And it gets back to my earlier point where that taillight would have already had to have been layered with spikes on the thing to cause that kind of penetration into his arm in the first place. It's just crazy.
It had teeth, Maz. Didn't you seen it?
Because they thought, and it gets back to this ultimate point, they never thought this case would get to this level
There's
where
no
it would
way.
be shined.
They thought that they're going to put these initial charges on Karen Reed.
Yep.
They were going to scare her into taking a charge. And then when she said nope, they changed the whole charges again and through second-degree murder and said, you're going to go to jail for life if you don't take a plea. And guess what? She got great attorneys that said, fuck this, we're fighting this. And then got a amazing reporter that did copious amounts of research on this case and got this case out public so everybody could know. Yeah, exactly. So everybody could know. All right, let's go back to testimony.
Excellent.
Good segue. Good
Center
segue.
mass or an extremity, 1,000 pounds of force because of the speed of the vehicle.
Well, force is equal, Newton's second law of force is equal to mass times acceleration. So the
I
acceleration
don't think Trooper Paul would know that equation.
is going to be the same.
All the court will wait
It
for an
depends on
answer.
the mass of whatever body part's being hit. So from the testing that we did at 15 miles an hour, we used a head form, which weighs about 11 pounds.
Excuse me.
And that produced almost 1,000 pounds of force, a little under that for the head. So anything that weighs 11 pounds is going to produce almost 1,000 pounds of force. The heavier the object, if you get hit center mass, that's going to be even greater force because that's more mass than just 11 pounds. So the acceleration is the same for each body part. It just depends on the weight of the body part and how heavy it is to determine the force that's actually exerted on the body.
Did you review, in furtherance of your conclusions and opinions, did you review records that indicated injuries to both a head as well as an arm, right extremity, right arm?
I did, yes, sir.
Taking those one at a time, is the injury to the
good.
head that
Yeah.
you saw consistent with having been struck by a vehicle at 24 miles per hour?
It is not, no, sir.
Can you explain why that is?
There's a couple of reasons. First of all, and the main reason is that to get the injury, it was a fracture at the occipital region of the head, which is basically on the back bottom part of the head. So in order to have that part of the head contacted by the tail light, you would somehow have to have a configuration or be standing in a manner that the rest of your body doesn't get hit because there's no other significant injuries to the body. If there's enough force to cause a skull fracture, then there's going to be certainly enough force to cause injury to the rest of the body. So first of all, you have to determine how could you configure somebody could actually be standing to have only the head impacted, the back of the head.
I know
And
a guy
even if
that
was the
can. I
case,
know a guy
if
that can break that down for us.
What's that? Oh,
It's a Plevin joke.
yeah, no. But he makes a great point here.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, with that amount of force, it would have caused, and you just went into this, you know, 20 minutes ago, it would have caused significant damage to everything else. I mean, why no rib fractures? No, why no arm fracture?
Correct.
You know, when Jackson was crossing Trooper Paul and asked him, you know, the arm is on a hinge. Why did his arm not break or tear out the muscles in his arm? You know, why did that not happen? He had no real answer for it.
Nope.
He just kept going into, well, it made contact, and that was the whole spinning him around and having a pirouette. Because they can't equate to it literally, if his arm was out and that car hit it at 20 miles an hour, they rip your arm probably clear off or break it pretty good.
Oh, sure. Oh, 100%. It would have been a total, his body would have been in a disaster. You know, in that particular, yeah, it did have, it just did. Yeah. Trooper Paul. That's pretty much sums it up right there.
Times acceleration equals, it just did.
You know, it just did, you know, it just, that's just what happened. Yeah. You know, it just, that's it, you know.
Somebody position themselves in such a manner to have that occur, you're still going to see other injuries related to that. For instance, with the cervical spine, over 1,000 pounds of force acting on the head, you're going to get significant cervical injuries, fractures, disc injuries, tendon and ligament injuries.
Disc injury, that's a good point.
Only have that head injury, and only damage to the occipital portion of the skull is inconsistent in this case with being struck by that tail light. And then there's also the evidence that we saw when we did the testing at 15 miles an hour, where we dropped the head form. So that would be akin or like a vehicle backing up at 15 miles an hour hitting the head. We had more damage to the tail light in that test than what we saw with the subject tail light cover. So if you're going 24 or 25 miles an hour, even faster, you're going to see even greater damage, greater fracturing of that rear tail light. And we just don't have that in this case. So both the physical evidence as well as looking at the biomechanical aspects of it are inconsistent with that head injury occurring due to impact with the rear of the Lexus.
Shifting to the arm, are the same forces at play if instead of the head making contact with the tail light, it's an outstretched arm, for instance, at the elbow area of a human being, the person 73 inches tall, weighing 215 pounds.
Objection.
The objection sustained. Ask it differently.
Sure.
Oh, give me a break.
Shifting to the arm, are the same forces at play if instead of making contact with a head, you make contact with an arm, an outstretched arm?
They are. You know, I just explained the force is mass times acceleration. So if the arm weighs the same as the head, you're still going to get that same force, almost 1,000 pounds.
Does the arm weigh the same as the head?
It does, actually, almost identical, because your arm, just one of your arms, including the hand, forearm, and upper arm, is about 5% of your total body weight. So for someone who weighs 216 pounds, that comes out to about 10.8 pounds. So your arm, basically your whole arm, is about the same, weighs the same as your head.
So is your analysis the same then if the arm, close to an 11-pound arm, made contact with the taillight traveling at 24 miles an hour, at 15 miles an hour, would you expect even more damage to the taillight at a higher speed?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Watch the leading room.
Sure.
Yes, you would. If it's higher than 15 miles an hour and you have an arm actually striking that taillight, you're going to get even more significant fracturing, more damage to that taillight at a higher speed than what we saw.
So was the taillight damage consistent or inconsistent with striking an arm?
It was, our findings was it's inconsistent for a number of reasons, but it's inconsistent with striking the arm. Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to shift back to the head injury that you saw. Was the head injury that you saw consistent with falling backward from a standing position onto a rigid surface?
Kelly, thank you so much. $2 says, what would you do What would you do if pulled over by Trooper Paul? Oh God. I would say don't reconstruct any of this. I would just say, please don't reconstruct any of this. That's probably what I would say. Maz, what would you say?
I would say, can you tell me the physics of how you decided that I was driving too fast and needed to pull me over?
That's certainly one of the possible scenarios that would create the injury mechanism. You fall backwards, strike your head on concrete. That can produce thousands of pounds of force on the head, and so that's certainly a scenario where you could produce that damage if someone was standing, they fell backwards and struck their head on the roadway or on the curb or a hard surface.
So I was going to ask, you think you may have just answered my question. Those kinds of force multipliers require
another 10 minutes.
Surface or not?
They do, yes, sir.
So grass and dirt would not produce the same sort of force.
Appreciate you being here with me, Matt.
Grass and dirt, no, that would not certainly not produce the same amount of force as hitting your head on concrete.
And if it was grass and dirt with a little bit of snow on the top of it, what effect is that?
That's going to dampen and lessen the force even more so.
Pushing it, yeah.
What injuries? I want to shift back to the arm. I know I'm going back and forth, but bear with me. Talking about the arm, if presuming a strike at, say, 24 miles an hour on just the arm, what kind of damage would you expect to see on the arm, irrespective of the vehicle?
Any bruising?
You can see significant damage on the arm, especially if it hits at that tail light.
This is good.
Enough force to actually cause fracture of that tail light.
Wow.
That force is going to be concentrated at an initial point. And you're going to see at that point, you're going to see probably the most damage to the arm and to the skin there. So remember, at 15 miles an hour, that's about almost 1,000 pounds. So 24, 25, it's even greater. So that amount of force on the arm, certainly you're going to see extensive subcutaneous lacerations, bruising, contusions. You're going to see most likely fracture of the arm.
Fracture.
You're going to see significant damage. Just imagine having your arm out and being struck by a car at 25 miles an hour. There's going to be significant damage, more so compared to simply the abrasions that were diagnosed and documented on the arm in this case.
Wow. So we heard bruising, contusions, which is pretty much the same thing, subterraneous contusions, which is like a deep bruise. He said fractures, probably going to fracture the arm. And did I miss anything there, Maz?
Maybe a couple of things, but I don't know. He said a lot of things there with stuff.
Yeah, and he said that it probably wouldn't be just the surface scratches that we saw. So you would have an accumulation of all of that.
Yep.
All of that. So again, I mean, we know what happened to John's arm. He was attacked by the dog, and you know, all this other crap that they're saying just doesn't add up here. And we're getting in here firsthand. I mean, I
asked myself 3 questions: what do we see? What do we don't see? You know, that's basically 2 questions. I should say. I had a third question, but I forgot the third question. But what do we see and what do we don't see? Excuse me. What do we see? What are we being told that happened? And what do we see? And basically, there should be bruises all over that arm and fractures all up and down that arm. Someone said a torn rotator cuff, spleen, probably all plausible. I don't doubt it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You did look at multiple photographs of the arm in this case, of the John O'Keefe's arm in this case, correct?
I did, yes, sir.
All right. Were
those
the
injuries are not
that you
consistent,
saw on
correct?
John O'Keefe's right arm consistent with having been struck by vehicle in the manner that you just described?
Great question.
Objection.
That's sustained.
Oh, of course you're going to object and sustain to that, you two.
You reviewed injuries specific to John O'Keefe, correct?
I did, yes.
Taking that as a hypothetical, would the injuries that you saw, generally speaking, hypothetically be consistent or inconsistent with having been struck by a car at 24 miles an hour?
Objection.
Oh, got to object to that. Staying that, of
Yes.
course. Yeah, let's approach. Let's talk about this a little bit because obviously they're getting somewhere and you two don't like it, apparently.
Yeah.
Madam Court Reporter, shout out to you. We love you.
Yes.
What a charade. What an absolute charade.
It's insane. It's the most bogus thing that I've ever seen in the history of law.
Oh, it absolutely is.
This poor woman has to go through.
He's asking simple questions that are just honest, truthful based questions that simple answers, and they're objecting it And not only that, the judge is sustaining it. It's a
Yeah.
total farce. It is. Anybody that can't see that, I just don't know what to tell you, because it's clear as day what's going on here.
Yeah, Turtle Boy says, funny how none of this mattered to like half the jury. Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I said. I don't get it. You're literally here with the two brightest people that have probably tested. Literally, this is the two brightest people that have testified during this trial. They have no fucking agenda here. They have zero agenda. And we were saying this, through this whole live. They were handed a case file. They were handed the information. They did scientific experiments, and came up with their conclusion.
Right.
These are literally Mazza. They're literally the most qualified people that have testified in this trial. It's
That's
unbelievable.
It's undisputed. These people are the two most qualified people. And if you, how can you look past all this stuff? If they're telling you this stuff, then they're telling you that basically what you're being told, the Commonwealth's telling you, the Canton PD, state police, whatever, are telling you is not in any way consistent with what these experts are telling us, which can only conclude one thing. Karen Reed was framed and John O'Keefe's murder was covered up. End of debate.
Or someone got into that jury room and said something, hey,
right,
it's going to be this way.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to be this way.
They definitely poached a juror for sure.
Yeah.
My question, that an arm was struck by a vehicle, taillight traveling at 24 miles an hour or thereabouts. Would you expect to see patterned abrasions with no bruising?
Objection.
Or just what would he expect to see?
What would you expect to see?
So again, I would expect to see significant trauma to the skin, to the bone, to the tendons. I wouldn't expect to see just abrasions, pattern abrasions. I mean, abrasion by very definition means that it's trauma to the skin, which is created through rubbing or grinding or friction. So it's basically something rubbing against the skin that basically wears away that top layer of skin. It's not blunt force trauma. If you have blunt force trauma, that produces a contusion or a bruising. It's not a laceration type injury where we have a cutting injury that actually produces a cut or a significant laceration. It's really just rubbing along the skin. So that would be inconsistent. If you have an arm that's actually struck at 25 miles an hour, you're going to have significantly greater damage, especially if there's a taillight that shatters. So you have the taillight coming in, it's hitting the arm and it's moving forward into the arm. So if that actually caused fracturing of the taillight, then parts of that taillight are going to be pushed into the arm and likely embedded into the arm.
Oh, wow.
As the vehicle continues forward and pushes the arm out of the way.
So they wouldn't be clean cuts.
I didn't see any of that.
That's an important thing there. So if they're embedded into the arm, that means that when he was found and all those pictures were taken that they showed, there would have been actual taillight fragments in the arm. Even if they were just microscopic, like pixie dust or something, they would have still been in there. But in this particular case, when I take a photo of his arm that we saw, it's all clean cuts, which only leads it to one possible scenario, that a dog bit and scratched the arm, and that's it.
Exactly.
And I believe her name was Dr. Marie Russell, said that with absolute clarity. It's an animal wound, an animal attack, without question. And that's it. There's no way around that.
I agree, man. I agree.
Superficial abrasions, which all appear to have a similar amount of force. There's not a difference. That's the other thing. If you had a taillight shatter and explode on an arm, you would have some areas where you would have very deep contusions or lacerations, others lighter areas. But when you look at the abrasions that were noted in this case, they all appear to be of the same force, generally the same direction and the same severity, which would be inconsistent, in my opinion, with being struck at 25 miles an hour.
Generally speaking, do you look for consistency in size of an object striking a body and the injury that the body suffers from being struck by the object?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, size is a big part of it, certainly. Yes.
So did you do any measurements of the size of the taillight, the width of the taillight that was shattered?
Yes.
And what was that width, if you can recall?
I think the width we looked at was maybe 6 inches or so.
In review of your, in coming to your opinions and conclusions, did you look at the arm of John O'Keefe just sort of laid out, straight out?
I did, yes, sir.
Did you see where the injury started and stopped, or began and ended, however you want to put it, in terms of size?
Yes, I mean it started from the upper arm and then extended down into the forearm, which was greater than 12 inches of length, where you see those injuries and those abrasions occur.
Did you come to any conclusions or opinions concerning the size differential between the tail light and the injuries that you see?
Objection.
Sustained.
Generally
What else
speaking,
is
would
new?
you expect if
Yeah,
there
right.
was an injuring event that the size of the injury would be consistent with the thing that produced the injury?
Yes, generally speaking, you would certainly expect that, and again, you would normally and usually be able to see an initial point of contact because that's where the most force is going to occur, where it causes that tail light to break. So you would have an area of severe damage, and then it would extend out likely to the edges of where it would contact the rest of the tail light.
From a biomechanics and or a physics standpoint, or an engineering standpoint, is it reasonable if someone is standing with their arm extended to be hit by a moving vehicle at say 25 miles an hour and the center mass of the body to be projected?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
Is it
If Pennywise the
consistent
clown
in
was
your
standing there with
view
balloons and hit
engineering?
by the arm, is that different enough for you, Auntie Bev? If Pennywise
Yeah.
the clown was standing there with his arm outstretched, holding balloons, and he was hitting the arm, is that phrasing the question differently enough for you?
Oh, jeez.
Jeez,
Principles,
these people.
physics principles that you know, if an arm is hit, extended, not the body, just the arm is struck, for the body then to be projected.
Objection.
I'll allow that.
It's not, no. So if we have contact, your arm's out, we have contact to the arm. I mean, first of all, it's a ball and socket joint, so the arm can move independently of
I
the rest
love
of the
this.
body. So with enough force, even if you're contracting your arm and trying to hold it
I
out as
love
tight as
this.
possible, it's going to overcome that muscular contraction and basically just move the arm.
Yeah.
But secondly, it all depends on your center of mass. The center of mass is kind of the equilibrium point of your body of where your weight's distributed. And for most normal people, the center of mass occurs at your umbilicus or your belly button.
You talk a lot about this in martial arts, I'm sure, because
Yeah.
I remember a lot of this too.
So in focus, we use a lot of focus mitts when I take martial arts. So
Mhm.
basically, if it's almost like a catcher's glove, right? So when you hit close range, it makes that noise. Now, if I hold my hand out like this at a distance, it's almost out of reach. It doesn't make that same impact. It's the same thing with an outstretched arm. That arm is not stable enough, and it gets moved around so easy that any kind of impact would have been it's like someone said earlier, it's just a ball and socket. It's getting hit and it's going. The arm is just moving and it's going out of there. It probably gets bruised, probably fractured, probably maybe bleeds. I don't know, but it's just the arm's just going, and that's it. It's like a baseball getting hit by a bat. It's just going. It's getting hit. He's gonna feel the pain, but that's it.
Yep.
And that's all. But if it's a close impact shot, it's loud. If it's at a distance, not as loud.
Science.
Yep.
So wherever your belly button goes, that's where your body's going to move.
Yeah.
They teach this to football players, right? If you're a defensive back
great
and
if
a
the
running
martial
back comes
artist-
around the corner
Yeah.
and it's you against him, they tell them or they teach them to watch the waist and watch the belly button. It doesn't matter what your head or your arms do or what their feet do. Wherever their belly button goes, that's where they're going to go. So that's what you want to tackle. So even if you had your arm straight out, again, we said it would move because of the joint, but let's assume you had a metal pole sticking out of your arm, out of your body instead of your arm, and that metal pole gets hit. What's going to happen to your body? It's just going to spin around, right? Because it's producing a moment arm, which produces a torque on the body. So your body's going to basically spin. In order to get that body, the complete body over, for instance, 10, 20, 30 feet into the yard, you need a force acting at the center of mass. You need an external force pushing the body that way. And that's not going to happen if you just hit the arm. It's not enough force. It's not the right mechanism to actually cause the body to somehow move that far over.
Assuming that the body was
That's
struck
right.
with enough
He
force.
doesn't
at
fall
center
if that's
mass.
the case. Then his arm
That
just gets hit. His arm just gets hit. He spins out probably. Maybe he falls. It might even fall on his face fall flat with his front of his body as opposed to his back. But I don't see any reason why he'd be pirouetting.
Well, it just,
Yeah. These experts just absolutely destroy any theory that suggests that Karen Reed did it. They absolutely have been annihilating it. And the thing is, you could take any one of these points that they made like 20, 30 points already. You can just take one of them and that's it. It's case closed. She didn't do it.
No, I agree. I 100% agree. All right, let's keep playing through here.
To project that body 20, 30 feet, what injuries would you expect to be produced on that body?
Objection.
Sustained.
If you did have a body that was projected a distance, what injuries from a car, what injuries would you expect to see on the body?
Objection.
I'm going to see you at sidebar
Of
the last
course.
time on this.
You are muted. You're unmuted.
Let's see if we can speed up here.
You just said.
Oops. Here we go.
You are unmuted.
Real quick, we're close to ending the stream. We got a couple more minutes here. I just want to make sure that people understand what's going on at the end of the show. I'm going to offer one of these free Karen Reed hats tonight. It was given to me by Bulma hats on Etsy. It was an extra hat. I ordered one. She sent me an extra, which was really sweet. I said I'll promote the company tonight. If you want to get involved in the drawing, just put in the chat, and it's only going to be for U.S. residents, unfortunately, tonight, but maybe we'll do something international at some point. You can put in the hashtag FKR, hashtag FKR, and that will get you entered into the drawing for this hat. Then once you say that you got to be in the chat room tonight to obviously get it, we will verify you, and then I'll have you email me. We'll get through the process through that, and I'll get this sent out to you. So FKR, hashtag FKR, will get you this free Karen Reed hat. Kelly Reed has made it very, very famous as she's been wearing it everywhere. And it's a great hat. It's a great trucker's hat. It fits well. And I'll be happy to give that away tonight. All right, let's finish up this testimony here, Maz.
Sure.
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
Doctor, do you have my question in mind? You need me to repeat it?
Maybe repeat it, yeah.
Easy for you to say. Assuming that a body was struck center mass with enough force from a vehicle traveling at whatever speed to project the body off the ground, would you expect to find injuries on that body?
You would, and you would actually see that there's specific injuries because let's say you're standing forward and you get hit on the right side with a vehicle. You're going to get injuries and damage to the right side of the vehicle as that vehicle impacts you. It depends on the profile of the vehicle, how high the hood comes up, whether you're going to wrap up onto the hood, or if it's a van or the back of an SUV, it will project or push your entire body to the left. So you're going to get initial contact and injuries to the right side of your body. And then if it propels you into the air, you're going to get airborne, and then you're going to contact the ground, usually with the left side of your body. So then we're going to see a correlation of injuries to the left side of your body as it slams down onto the ground as well. And at those speeds, normally you would also see more abrasions, greater abrasions or road rash along the entire part of the body as your body then would slide until it came to the point of rest.
And you did not see that in this case.
Objection.
Okay.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I think this is going to be it. Let me see.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, that's
All
it.
right.
All right.
Game over.
Real quick before we do the drawing, I just want to play about 2 more minutes of footage if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm going to do this, and I think it will be kind of wrap everything up, put some context to just what we heard. Here we go. It's the pirouette moment.
It turns around counterclockwise.
Got to
Turn
do
around
this,
in the
Maz.
air
Got to do it.
counterclockwise.
Yes, initially.
So it gets hit, upper biceps, shoulder area, and down to the forearm, right?
Yes.
By an unbroken taillight, right?
Yes.
In other words, it's nice and smooth.
Checks.
Nothing, no shards of plastic or anything broken at the time that it made contact with his arm, right?
Correct.
Okay, so how did his arm get up?
Because when his arm struck the taillight then cracked. And as the car driving past him, the taillight could scratch it.
Got it. So
All right, there.
it's hit by the car, not his torso, just the arm. The taillight cracks, and as it passes by, his arm stays with it long enough to get striations, those scratches, those lacerations. I'm sorry, those abrasions, right?
In a sense, yes.
And at the same time,
Right here.
he does a pirouette and flies 30 feet
It's so
to
good.
his final point of rest.
He's the best.
I don't know if he did a pirouette.
Well, I'm using the word pirouette. He spun around.
He started rotating counterclockwise. I don't know how far he ran counterclockwise, but he started rotating. according to that, would push him to rotate counterclockwise. Whether or not he went counterclockwise all the way to his back toward the ground, it seems like a most likely possibility.
Got it.
Did you account for the fact that his arm is on a hinge?
Is what? Say again?
Did you account for the fact in this scenario that you just told the jurors that his arm is on a hinge?
Boy.
On a
Called
hinge.
shoulder?
He's like,
Okay.
Right? So, the arm got hit. Didn't his arm just swing?
I said arm and shoulder area, so his arm could have been considered part of it.
Even if his shoulder got the upper,
Okay.
you're pointing to his upper biceps.
Mhm.
Right? There's no injuries on his shoulder, not a single one, not even a bruise, right?
Like I said, it looked like to me it was from up here. I don't know how far I can up back here, but it was up here.
Well,
So
you're the one.
all right. I think we got it. Just to put some context together there. It's that guy's a fucking patsy. They pulled that guy in. I'm telling you, no. They pulled that
You got
guy
the
in.
short end of the stick. Yeah.
I'm telling you, they pulled that guy in a fucking room and was like, you are doing this because we need you. I mean, I'm telling you, man, they had to have, because that guy looks scared shitless. Like they got him in a fucking room and was like, you are doing this. You are our expert.
We located your internet history, and here it is. And if you don't want this being made public, we suggest
Yeah, I mean,
you,
he should have just put a note on his fucking jacket that just said, help me, you know?
yeah,
Like,
seriously.
he's like winking to the camera, help me. I mean, seriously, but I digress. All right, let's do the drawing on this awesome hat. I want to give this away. Here's your last chance. I'll give you another minute or so. If you haven't done hashtag FKCar, I almost said it again.
FKR.
To get entered, please do. And we're going to spin the wheel here in a minute. I'll just wait a couple more seconds. Yeah, Chat GPT would have done better. And the way this is going to work is if you are not in the room tonight, to verify that you are here, I'm going to just spin it again, and we're going to do it again and give this away to someone that's in the room. If you are the winner, it is your responsibility to reach out to me. You have to email me, and I will drop my email in the chat. Email is letstalklivepodcast@gmail.com. You can reach out to me, put in the subject line hat, give me your, just send me an email. And then what I'll do is I will do something to have you verify who you are, because I can verify it through the screen name and photo. And then I need an address this can get sent to, and we will do it. Okay, a couple more seconds, and then we're going to roll away here. We'll wait a couple more seconds here.
Give everybody a chance to get those last entries in.
Yeah, last entries. I'm going to give another 30 seconds or so, and then we're going to cut it off and spin the wheel. Maz, again, I appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you.
Excellent show. You know, like I said, a little bit more lighthearted. We had a little fun tonight, but very serious stuff considering the case. Well, shout out to TB for jumping in the chat room and hanging out with us a little bit tonight. Mark Betterow was in earlier on. Shout out to him. And I appreciate all the donations that came in tonight. Again, 25% of that will be kicked back to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. And how I do that is I will post the receipt up on my Facebook page, on my YouTube community page, and then you can go right to the Defense Defense Fund link, and it will say LTL Media Chat Raiser. It will have the date of 8/12/24, and then the total donation up there to be completely vetted. All right, let's spin it away, Maz. Here we go.
Here we go.
1, 2, 3. Let's see who the winner is.
There we go.
And the winner is, all right, Amanda F. Are you in the chat room? If you are here, let us know. You're in the chat room. You have won a free Karen Reed trucker hat, and I hope you're in the chat room, because if not, I'm going to respin it and give this thing away to someone tonight.
You sound like the robot. You have 10 seconds to comply.
Yeah, and just let us know. In the chat.
Yeah.
Say I'm here.
There she is.
Yes, and shout out to Brian.
Yeah, she just messaged.
Oh,
yeah,
I
she
think
popped up. Yeah, she popped up in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah. I see in here, Amanda, you are here, so that's awesome. And I'm going to drop my email in the chat room. So it's letstalklivepodcast@gmail.com. And you can, congratulations, by the way, you can just reach out and say hat in the subject line. Send me, just let me know you're the winner. I will verify you and get this sent out to you sometime this week. So that being said, thank you and congratulations on that. I want to thank everybody. By the way, what is the total, Shelby? What's the total? I think it's around 300. We'll take 25% off of that.
That's
and
awesome.
post that up tonight. Hang on one second here. Wait for Shelby to give me a total in the chat so we verify it. Send me a copy of life so we can compare it to it. All right, 316. I'll round it to 320. I like round numbers. 25% off of that. It's going to be $80. We're going to give $80 back to the Karen Reed Defense Fund. Thank you all so much for supporting Karen Reed and supporting LTL Media. I appreciate that. And supporting Mazza Media here on the panel. Always love having fun panels with you, man. Really good show. Long show tonight, but we got through it. We're going to hit the 3-hour mark here just in a second here. Everybody having a fabulous night. I will be back soon this week. And Friday, it is confirmed, Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Retired State Police Todd McGee will be live in studio in that chair. And we have tons of questions and answers to get to and see what his take is on the Karen Reed case and the state of the Massachusetts State Police and the policing in and around Massachusetts. So I'm waiting for that. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.